I'm happy to be with you, as is always the case. Our show is brought to you by Big Willie's at 1717 South Main, a perfect place for you to be watching all of your Olympic coverage. They will have the events live all day, late at night, early morning, doesn't matter. And, of course, if you're just catching the prime time, perfect for dinner with their craft food menu, their drink specials, etc., etc. Tell them OC sent you. They'll give you extra special treatment in some way, shape, or form. James Peterson behind the glass producing today. Gordy Chiesa is going to join us in about half an hour. We have Jerem Jordan at noon and Jeff Schwartz at 1 to recap the Super Bowl with Jeff. Big basketball stuff going on in the Big 12 Conference. We'll get to some of that with Jerem. And, of course, there's always something to talk about in the NBA. We are exactly 1 year removed from the blockbuster, ground-shaking, landscape-shifting trade that took Luka Doncic to L.A. and had everyone questioning whether or not the Mavericks had completely lost their minds. We are a year removed from it, and so far, neither team has won a championship. The Lakers feel like they've got the right pieces to build around. They've got the right guy to build around, but, it's not a direct correlation, causation situation, at least not yet, with the Lakers after that trade that brought them the superstar from Slovenia. So we'll get into all of that with Gordy and much, much more. There was a game last night in college basketball, and we talked about this with Ari Temkin on the show, where an undefeated number 1, University of Arizona, was taking on a blue-blooded, top 15 program in Kansas that had seen some shaky games, but has the number 1 player in the country in a lot of people's minds. That Darren Peterson, for many, has emerged as the guy who's going to be the number 1 overall draft pick. And I cannot tell you how much more vehemently I disagree with that reasoning after what we saw last night. I will allow for one tiny little asterisk, but you've got Kansas. You're the number 1 team in the country. You're trying to finish off an undefeated regular season. You're Arizona trying to finish off an undefeated regular season. You're Kansas trying to knock off the number 1 team in the country. And you decide, as the best player on the team, as the guy that everyone is focused on, as the individual who dozens of executives and scouts flew in to watch, Darren Peterson was a big reason. Not the only reason, but perhaps the biggest reason that nearly the entire NBA scouting community descended on that game, and he ended up being a scratch, not playing. Flu-like symptoms. Now, I got to give the kid a little bit of grace because he wasn't even born when Michael Jordan played the flu game. However, you're supposed to be the best player in the country. There's only one symptom, in my opinion, there's only one symptom that you can be dealing with that would qualify you as being unable to play. All right? Flu-like symptoms is kind of a catch-all. On the Pepto-Bismol label, James, it tells you that it handles a few things: nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach. Everyone knows what the last one is. That's the only one that if you're dealing with that, you can say, Coach, I'm not playing this game. You got nausea? Oh, well. You're going to throw up? Oh, well. We'll make sure there's a garbage can next to you at all times. You got heartburn? Don't care. Your nose is runny? Don't care. You're feverish? Don't care. You got a headache, a splitting headache? Hydrate yourself and take some ibuprofen. What's the headache? Motrin? Which one's the headache medicine?
Ibuprofen.
There's one that's like the headache. Excedrin?
Yeah. Excedrin.
Is it Excedrin that's the headache medicine?
Yeah. Excedrin.
Like
Like
I will say, all right, and hopefully this is his agent and his coaches and whoever is saying to all of the gathered scouts and NBA executives that watched specifically for Darren Peterson, hey, he's not going to play tonight. All of them are like, what? Why did I get on an airplane then? What do you mean he's not going to play? What do you mean he's sick? How sick is he? Well, he's got a really, really stuffy nose. He's got a bad sore throat. At this point, even if you have COVID, you can't say I'm too sick. The only flu-like symptom, because it is a catch-all, that I will give you a pass on not playing in a game like that one, if you're supposed to be the number one player in the country, is when you're climbing up a ladder and you feel a sudden splatter. If you have that, all right, fine. We're not going to tell you to put on some Depends and go play basketball. Anything else, though, you have to ride it out with your team. Now, Kansas, I don't know. Kansas, they found a way. They won anyway. Kansas hands Arizona its first loss of the season. You get 3 guys in double figures. If I'm in the NBA and I don't have an adequate explanation beyond he was just feeling sick, that is one of those situations where I'm like, I'm going to really take a second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th look at how much I believe this kid deserves to be the number 1 overall pick in an NBA draft. Because we have seen in pro sports and in the NBA more specifically than any other pro sport that sometimes the best ability is availability. And there's already enough of the load management. There's already enough of the Kawhi Leonard situations going on in the NBA. And those guys, to some extent, Kawhi Leonard, to some extent, as begrudgingly as I say this, he's kind of earned that, right? He's been an all-NBA, all-star, NBA champion player for long enough that if he wants to play this game and screw a team over and screw a franchise over and just get the golden parachute and find a way to minimize the damage on his body and maximize the dollars in his bank account, I mean, I guess after you win a championship, I could say, fine, if that's your priority, like you kind of did what you're supposed to do in the NBA. Not for that franchise, not for the current franchise he's playing for. But I, like many of you, last night was like, okay, got a nice little evening planned. Here's what we're going to do. Going to make some dinner for the kids. We'll make it easy. We'll just do some like Trader Joe's chicken nugs. All right? Cut up some fruit. Make sure they got some milk. And we're going to throw on the Olympics. All right? And we're going to bounce back and forth. We're going to use that sacred last channel button on the remote during all the breaks. So we're going to check in on what's going on with college hoops. And most of the country that wanted to watch that top 15 premier matchup, undefeated number 1 team in the country, Big 12 power, blue blood. This matchup, Arizona-Kansas in basketball, was one of the only things that we were looking forward to with the death of the Pac-12 and the reorganization, the realignment of college football and college basketball. This was one of those tiny little silver linings. Like, oh, won't it be cool to have Arizona basketball and Kansas basketball in the same conference? That's kind of neat. Like, Arizona basketball being thrown in with Houston and Iowa State and Baylor and some of these teams. That's kind of cool, right? That was one of our silver linings. Number 1, Arizona. Number 9, Kansas. And the cherry on top is you're talking about at least 2, probably 3 NBA lottery picks squaring off and playing against one another in this game. Oh, wait, not the case, because the guy that a lot of people have tabbed as number 1, he's not playing. He's sick. And by the way, the conspiracists are out there. I don't know if you saw this, but there was a guy, apparently he's a statistician who does like freelance work for ESPN. He was texting updates to somebody on his phone, and somebody sitting behind him looked at his phone and saw what he was typing and zoomed in on that and was like, hey, what is this guy saying? And the messaging was effectively, Peterson said he was sick. Bill Self said, well, don't even play if you're just going to half-ass it. And then Darren Peterson, okay, fine, I'm done. I'm out. Now, Kansas has come out, Associate Athletic Director has come out and said, that's incorrect. This person doesn't have insider information. This is all speculative, whatever. And that may very well be true. But here's the thing. That, to me, is, like, even if that is a totally fabricated story, the fact that you have to question its legitimacy is enough of a character question about this player to say, well, is he really the number one guy? And I know that the NBA has this long history of caring more about your traits and your skill set than about anything else. And the NBA and the NFL are more guilty of that than really probably any other business in America, because your traits and your skills can kind of like wash out a lot of the character flaws that you have. But competitiveness, willingness to play when you're hurt, willingness to play when you're sick, willingness to play when the conditions are not ideal, that should be considered with one of those measurements. Like, you don't have a measurement for it, but it's at least as important, probably more important than height, weight, speed, wingspan, all of those things. Like, we'll talk about this, I guess, in the daily. Max Crosby reportedly has told Tom Brady, who's, of course, an executive with the Raiders, that he's done. He's not going to play for the Raiders anymore. There's reports out there saying, no, I don't want to play. Now, the right amount of money could, I'm sure, mend that fence, rebuild that bridge. But part of the reason why Max Crosby is so disgruntled and disenfranchised right now with the Raiders is because they shut him down. And he's like, no, you don't get to shut me down. You don't get to try to protect me from injury. I'm a football player. I want to play football. He's got this old school mentality of wanting to be a competitor and not wanting to appear soft. And I get it. The NFL and the NBA are two very different, football and basketball, very different cultures when it comes to things like this. But the fact that there's, even if it is speculation, that some random guy has text messages on his phone that are leaking to the media, and the athletic department feels it is credible enough in that case to say, no, we're handling this. That's not what happened. If you're the type of player that, I use Max Crosby as the example, but if you're the type of player that, I mean, fill in your favorite, like if this were Andre Miller, right? If this were Hano Metala, if this were DeLon Wright, if this were, like, think of any of your favorite, Keanu Dawes, for that matter, right? You'd be like, no, that's not a true story. He doesn't talk to coaches like that. He doesn't walk out on his team just because of an ego trip. So the fact that Kansas even feels that they need to address this means there's enough smoke that it might be fire. And even if you take that away, even if you take that like social media rumor aspect away, like you got to be really, 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 really sick to be justified in saying I'm not playing against the number one team in the country. And for people to say you're still the number one guy in the upcoming draft. You're the guy I want to watch more than anyone else. You're the person I want to put my franchise hopes in. Like, if somehow the Utah Jazz won the NBA draft lottery and they picked a guy who in his lone college basketball season missed half of the season and missed at least a couple of those games due to illness, and a game against the number one team due to illness, I'm not going to write him off and call it a bad pick right away. But I am going to say, hey, you better get a really satisfactory explanation before you make that pick. you better have a serious talk with that individual about what happened in the Arizona game specifically. Why did you not play in this game? And if he says, look, I didn't play in the game because I was really worried that I was going to throw up on the bench, my answer to that would be like, well, not enough for me, dude. Throwing up on the bench, that's just a highlight for you. That's just something we get to put on SportsCenter. If you're throwing up on the bench, everyone's just like, what a competitor this guy is. Look, it's the Michael Jordan flu game in Lawrence, Kansas. Let's go. If that's your excuse, I'm pushing back. The only thing I'm saying, right, flu-like symptoms. Why did you not play with flu-like symptoms? I had a fever. Not good enough, kid. I was feeling achy. Not good enough, kid. Runny nose. Not good enough, kid. If he's like, look, man, I was gonna lose it. You know what I mean? Like there's no way wearing those uniforms we were in our home whites. Do you know what would have happened if I was wearing those? Like, that's the only satisfactory explanation.
I didn't know brown was one of Kansas's colors.
You cannot tell me that Darren Peterson, if that's it, right? Darren, call the show. I know you're listening right now, 877-353-0700.
And we're probably related down the line somewhere. I can probably find Darren Peterson's number somewhere.
If that's what you were scared of, I will accept that. But this is now too many games that the number one draft pick is missed. And when, like, legitimate injuries, sure. If you're sick, you got to be, like, real sick. If you didn't practice, which you didn't, but you tried, like Bill Self said, we were hoping adrenaline would kick in and he'd be able to play. Why didn't it? There's only one symptom that disqualifies you from pushing through and playing. And guess what? If you're not effective and if you're not going to be able to execute and you're going to look bad, then it's on your coach to say, look, you just don't have it. Thanks for trying. You're too exhausted. You're sluggish. Whatever. Thanks for trying. Then your teammates get to look at you and say, hey, thanks for trying to push through, man. Then everyone at Allen Fieldhouse, hey, thank you, man. Thanks for trying. But if you're like, man, I'm sick, I can't do it, now I question you. Everyone, but this is unfortunately what you have to do with these student athletes now, with these athletes now, these pro athletes now, because especially in basketball, there's a culture of coddling where it's just like, if it's remotely uncomfortable, I might not participate against the number one team in the country.
What's really funny about this, OC, and we'll see if this reporting, and we'll put air quotes over it for now, this rumors that was circulating that Kansas internally has denied. The way we know that that's true is if Darren Peterson makes some kind of announcement that, like, I'm shutting it down, I'm preparing for the NBA draft, right? If we see, or if he misses the next 4 or 5 games, and it's nothing serious, it's like a day-to-day type sick illness or something else type of thing, that's how we'll know if Kansas was just trying to spin something that looks bad on their program, or if it's real. The other thing related to this that's funny, so many people push back against load management in the NBA in particular, and yet in college basketball, when a guy is in the running for the number one pick, since I think when Zion Williamson hurt himself in the middle of his spectacular freshman season at Duke, however many years ago that was, 7 years ago, it feels like every year we have college basketball media, like, shut it down, too much to lose. In January, shut it down, too much to lose. You don't gain anything by playing. And it's like, can we stop with, because the rest of us hate how much these guys are coddled. Like, can we just stop with this stuff?
To me, now, if there's, and by the way, I say all this entire rant, I throw at you fully acknowledging that, like, it is possible he was genuinely debilitatingly ill.
Yeah, unable to play. Genuinely unable to play because of how sick he was. Yeah.
This is what Bill Self said. Went into the training room. He's in there trying, and I said, "Can you?" And he said, "Coach, I don't think I can. To be honest with you, I would probably rather him not play if he couldn't contribute, just because we'd spend 20 minutes trying to get him shots or whatever. And if he doesn't feel it, then I would much rather do it the way that it happened." So he tried, but he just couldn't get there. So his coach seems to be fine with it. All right. Transparency in a situation like this one is not going to be something I trust 100%. His team is used to, and the number one point here is that his team won, right? We have watched this exact thing play out in our own fan base, where information was not 100% available, where the clarity of something related to health, in this case it was an injury. Well, it was a couple injuries. It was obviously Brant Keithy, Cam Rising. And Kansas probably feels like, hey, we did enough. We said he was sick. He was sick. He didn't practice on Sunday. He did the warm-ups on Monday. He couldn't get there. And we won the game. What do you want? We won the game. Well, if it were just that, if it were just the game against, again, the number one team in the country, kind of a big deal. If it were just a number one contender coming in to your place and your quote-unquote best player can't push through and make himself available, as long as it's satisfactory for you, I guess the rest of us should take that. But if I'm an executive, a scout, a coach in the NBA that spent my time, my resources, by the way, during the regular season, so I could go watch this kid play, and more importantly, I'm trying to project what he is going to be at the next level, my question is a serious one. Like, all right, is this guy what we need? Is this guy married to the game? Is this guy worthy of the number one pick with his mentality?
Can you depend on a guy like that?
And honestly, Bill Self is the kind of individual that he's going to front-facing, he's going to tell people what he's supposed to tell them. He's going to say this, right? Behind closed doors, he's going to tell the NBA executives and scouts the truth. And I hope those two things match up. Genuinely, for Darren Peterson's sake, for his family's sake, I hope that I am dead wrong about this. But I have to question it, because there are people in Kansas questioning it. There are people at that game sitting courtside saying, yeah, here's what I heard, and I believe it. Like, I know it's reductive to keep relating it back to something that is now old news for the University of Utah, but there were a lot of people who said, oh, yeah, you know, Cam Rising doesn't want to play. He's just cashing his NIL checks, whatever, because we weren't getting clarity on his recovery, on his injury prognosis, things like that. And the entirety of that time, my stance was that's not correct. Cam Rising wants to play. Cam Rising is not like the text message you would get, like, I heard Cam Rising just told the coach he doesn't want to go. I wouldn't believe that. If someone sent me that, I'd be like, dude, that's not true. There's something going on here. His surgeon won't let him play, whatever. They won't give him the release. Now, who knows who's right in that case? But the fact that you're getting that kind of rumor and that there are enough people who believe it, that the associate athletic director at Kansas feels like he has to respond, he has to come out and say, no, that's not true. To me, that's something. And it's even more important to talk about this right now because the Utah Jazz could potentially be in a position to draft somebody like Darren Peterson. They could, and they maybe that's at number one, unlikely, in my opinion. Maybe that's at number one. Maybe it's at number three because a guy like him has now had these questions come up around him, so he doesn't get taken number one. He doesn't get taken number two. Maybe you're sitting at number three, and you wanted A.J. Debonsa, but A.J. Debonsa has made himself available, has played through illness, has played through injury, and the NBA knows that, so they're like, all right, we're taking him two, and Peterson's now available for you at three. And look, rumors are not enough. We saw how this works out with the Ace Bailey situation, right? There were a lot of rumors and innuendo around that situation. And he has been here long enough to prove that we shouldn't have been questioning. Anyone who was questioning him that way should not have been. He's committed to playing for the Jazz. He's done a great job playing for the Jazz, et cetera, et cetera. But that was, instead of Kansas winning without him, my number one takeaway from this game, and it could be a me problem, was, wait a second. You know how sick you would have to be to not play against the number one undefeated team in the country at your home place? You know, you would have to be beyond ill.
And to be fair, like you said, maybe he was. But I guess Michael Jordan and others he's the most famous one, but there's been other cases of guys playing with flu-like symptoms. I guess that's ruined it for a guy like Darren Peterson in this case, right?
Well, I can't decide if Michael Jordan's willingness to play through that is what's ruined it, or if it's Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, fill in the blank. Everyone's unwillingness to play through it.
The load management at a different level, but also related.
But Darren Peterson and the people around him, and probably even his teammates at Kansas, and him, like, he already views himself as a professional basketball player because he is.
Well, and that's why I bring up the ridiculous, it seems like every year, and it hasn't been brought up with Darren Peterson yet, but I guarantee he turns his ankle. We're going to see so many national college basketball writers and talking heads say, well, that's it. You got to sit them. They could be in line for a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. Just sit it out because you have too much to lose. It's like, man, like, how about we encourage guys to play basketball instead, right? And to be fair, that has not happened yet with Darren Peterson. I'm just kind of projecting as to how it feels like we're headed there because he's already missed so many games. It's not been an illness every time. This is the first time it's been a significant illness that's left him out. But he's had other things, like he only played one half against BYU, right? They only needed him for that one half, but it's like, when is it going to be big enough for this guy to be able to play? And when are we going to stop encouraging guys to sit out the rest of the season when they have a high draft pick? It's like when they didn't blow out their knee or something, right? Like, injuries happen, it's fine.
Derek, he said, hey, if you're feeling that sick, at what point does your play become a detriment to the team? It's better if you don't play. That's something you got to calculate. And
that was Bill Self's sentiment.
Also, you didn't question Nick Bosa when he stopped playing at Ohio State. Yes, I did. 100%.
That might have been directed at me,
like
the Ohio State fan. He also had a season-ending knee injury. I mean, he could have rehabbed and gotten back in time for the playoff, perhaps the Rose Bowl, but like that's different than a guy sitting out for flu-like symptoms.
Well, and I understand there's a sentiment that, like, okay, well, if I'm sick and I push through, I'm more likely to get injured here. And if I injure myself, it could screw up. First of all, it probably wouldn't screw up your draft prospects if everyone really believes this about you. Second of all, that mentality that permeates basketball, that we have to bubble wrap everything, is in every other case problematic. Every time you see it, you're bothered by it. Every time you see it, you're just like, oh, here you go. Here goes Kawhi again. He's got a hangnail, so he doesn't want to play tonight. Here's LeBron again, not playing for the Utah Jazz fan base in Salt Lake City because he's a little bit tired of being on a back-to-back or whatever. And then when you question it, and again, I could be completely off base and totally unfair here, but when you start to question it, whether or not this is the right way to handle things, then suddenly the pushback is, well, no, this is what you're supposed to do. So we have to decide collectively as a family, are you supposed to coddle yourself and your teammates and the players for your favorite teams or your least favorite teams? Are you supposed to expect highly compensated athletes with high expectations to push through illness to play? This was the number one team in the country. If this was a game against Oklahoma State or Utah, I'd be like, yep, that sucks. He was sick. It was Arizona, undefeated Arizona, and his teammates figured it out. And I have done them a disservice by talking for 30 minutes about the guy who decided not to play.
Shout out to Kansas for winning anyway. How about that? Congrats to our guys, Bill Riley and Ari Temkin.
All right. Yeah. We'll take a quick one here. Maybe, oftentimes I feel like firm in my opinions on this, and then someone who knows way more about basketball will say, no, this was the right thing. And that's usually Gordy. He's like one of the only people in my life that can have me change my mind. Gordy Chiesa next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show once again. Welcome in Gordy Chiesa, resident NBA guru, brought to you by Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. and America First Credit Union. Gordy, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Sean, I'm doing fine. Also, for yourself, welcome back to the States.
Thanks very much. Last Thursday, Friday, I was off in Dubai, and it's always good to come home. Makes you grateful to be an American every time you get to come back to the United States of America. I don't know if you heard
Sean,
me.
You lead a life of international mystery.
Yes, I'm like Austin Powers. Yeah.
I like it. Okay.
Gordy, I don't know if you heard me ranting about the Kansas-Arizona game last night and Darren Peterson not playing. Now, the explanation was he's sick, flu-like symptoms, and I know illness is a real thing. The number one team in the country coming to your place, my expectation, if I'm a season ticket holder, if I'm a fan, if I'm a coach, if I'm a teammate, is, man, unless you're on death's door, you're playing in that game. And it was reported that a large contingent of NBA personalities were in town to scout that game. And, of course, there would be some disappointment that somebody like Darren Peterson is not playing. My question for you is, right, like they fly Gordy Chiesa out there to Lawrence to watch that game, to watch Darren Peterson, and then he doesn't play because of an illness. What is your process? Do you go like, all right, well, I'm going to stay after. I'm going to talk to the coach. I'm going to talk to the kid. I'm going to see how sick he really was. How do you handle it when something like that goes down from an NBA side of things?
It's alarming because also he missed other games previously. So there's been a pattern there where he has an ankle injury, and the question is, could he play with rehab, or he's just sitting out where he might be getting advice from his agent to sit out because we want you to be 100% all the time. And so from a team standpoint, it affects the group. And I would talk to the general manager of the team and also anybody around the college campus that you trust to find out more about his personality. And they will. The NBA teams will do due diligence before the draft, and they will be 100%, they believe, sure whether they take him or not. And here's the reasons why. So it's alarming, though, because unless you're truly sick to the ultimate, that you got to try to play in that game. And ironically, his teammates won the game. Kansas won in a hellacious game against two heavyweight teams. Both those guys could be national champions, and that shows you how strong the Big 12 is. And Utah's playing tonight against the University of Houston, and the Cougars have a tough game at Baylor tonight.
One more thing on this. When we talk about somebody like, if you see a little bit of load management starting to develop in their college career, how is the NBA team going to respond to that or handle that? Because, like hyper-talented players at the NBA level, that load management is a reality. And we're seeing some of the best talent-wise that have not really lived up to expectations. You got, street clothes. You got the unibrow. You got Kawhi Leonard, who seems like he's playing 50% of the time. But the NBA they've helped create this system, and they're also kind of the victims of this system. So if you're seeing it from a college player, are you like, yeah, well, you know what? He's already ready for the NBA because he's already doing this. Or are you like, man, I don't want that guy?
It's concerning, no doubt. So again, it's based on personality, who the agent is, and just a general feeling about the guy. Will he play through some sort of injury? I don't mean when you actually have a torn ACL. I'm not talking that, or a ripped Achilles. I'm not saying that. I'm saying is that but over a period of time, once you have the rehab, can you play in a game and help your teammates perform in that contest, but also try to be the best you can possibly be to show that you're part of the group right now. And by the way, in the NBA, it's showing so much of the economics of it also, is that you're paying a guy, we'll say, $60 million a year, which is a whole bunch of money, and he possibly could play, but he's holding out because he wants to be sure mentally that he could play. And in playoffs, NBA playoffs, it's a whole different thing where guys try to play as much as they can because it affects the group dynamics.
We are 1 year removed from the Luka trade. With the benefit of a little bit of hindsight, at least a year's worth of hindsight, has it worked out the way that you thought it would for both teams?
Well, for the Lakers' point of view, it worked out spectacularly. The answer is yes. because with Luka now taking the mantle place away from LeBron, and rightfully so. LeBron's 41 years young, and he deserves to have a mental health break during games. So for the Lakers' point of view, they're at a fourth seed right now, 32-19. And Sean, do you realize that a trio of Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves, they've only played a total of 10 games this year together. So with the Lakers being 32-19, with those three main guys not very little on the court together, when they are, they could be a tough out in the playoffs. From the Dallas point of view, they're starting over. They've made all these different trades, and now they moved on Anthony Davis, which they're ecstatic about. So think about it. Anthony Davis. He was a big part of the trade a year ago to go to Dallas Mavericks to give them an inside force, and then a year later they move into the Washington Wizards, where he doesn't want to be there, and he has an injury. They're holding him out, or the agent's holding him out, meaning Rich Paul, and the Dallas Mavericks are heading to deep in the lotteries right now. And the Mavericks, as we speak, they're 19-33. That's the good part. They're riding right now a 7-game losing streak. So the future is Cooper Flegg and everyone else who they draft.
The future for the Utah Jazz post-trade, I think, has people feeling encouraged. And you and I have talked about this a lot. How does it change, your philosophy? I think we saw some evidence of what the plan will be moving forward as, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, you see some starters pulled. But it doesn't always work, Gordy. Sometimes the backups still win you games.
Yes, and that was a hard-charging team effort last night. That was great. So Kyle Filipowski, that guy was all over the court in that second part of that game. 16 points, 11 rebounds, which when he got him hustle plays. Bryce Sensabaugh is fearless. His 14 points, also when he got them, including that killer pull-up jump shot. Ace Bailey was tremendous. You could see the talent level and how much more confidence he has. He was the first option in that fourth quarter during the game. He responded 16 points, 8 rebounds, and it's when he got those points, especially when that emotional baseline drive when he took the guy to the basket and dunked in the guy's noggin. And so that was a spectacular victory for the Jazz, and it shows you that the Jazz do have talent. And let's add to the group right now Jaren Jackson Jr., who's averaging 22 points a game in the 2 games he played. And last night he showed Vince Williams, who's really a tremendous defensive player, him getting 7 assists in 15 minutes. So he knows how to play with the ball and without the ball. And then John Konchak, who's a really good standstill, face-up three-point shooter. So the Jazz won that trade. And this is what the Jazz could be. We left out purposely Keontae George is out with an injury, as far as legitimate, I might add, with a sprained ankle. Probably hold him out until after All-Star break. So the Jazz, their future's bright. So the question is, do the backups keep playing in the fourth quarter? My instincts tell me yes.
Gordy Chase is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things NBA. If you're playing your backups in the fourth quarter, right, there's the obvious optics of that. But what we saw last night was, what you were just talking about, that a backup unit, young players kind of finding their role, getting more minutes, developing. And it isn't super clear how many of the guys that helped engineer that win last night are actually going to be part of the team's plans moving forward as this rebuild speeds up and, you start to really chase the playoffs. But could we see one of these guys, these backups that are, going to be getting more minutes now as Will Hardy rests guys in the fourth quarter? Could we see one of those guys or a couple of those guys become bigger part of the Jazz plans?
Yes, very much. And that would be Isaiah Collier, who's very good. That guy, if he played 38 minutes in a game, would get a double-double, meaning assist and points. And he's vastly underrated. And that was a jackpot when the Jazz drafted him back in 2024 at the 29th pick of the draft. So he was the one pick away from this number 30. And now, let's fast forward a year and a half later, he can play well in the NBA. Most of these guys can play in the NBA. The question is, can he play well? And he can. So going forward, he should be, if not the starting point guard, the backup point guard. If you play Keontae George off the ball as a two guard, which could happen also because Keontae, I'll call him, he's a guard, which is fine. He can score the ball, he can pass the ball. Collier is more of a mentality of a point guard because everybody involved. You need both on the team. So Collier's going to be the guy. Also, Bryce Sensabaugh off the bench. His contract is team friendly. He's got a winning game. He's fearless in a positive way, and he can make shots. So he also, I believe, will be part of the future.
What are you hearing about Jaren Jackson Jr.'s integration into the team? We're seeing on the floor that he appears not to be skipping a beat, but, you know, the behind-the-scenes locker room type stuff, is he happy to be in Salt Lake City? What are you hearing?
I'm sure he's ecstatic to be in Salt Lake City because Memphis was a good fit for him, but the last 3 years with the John Morant saga and just things going differently all the time, they fired Tyler Jenkins, who is a tremendous coach. We know behind the scenes there's different things going on with the ownership and the coaching staff, and he's ecstatic to be with Utah, which is a more stable situation, and he's valued. He's what the Jazz need. The Jazz need another scorer, but what he does, though, he's a tremendous shot blocker. He knows how to play the game with the ball, without the ball, and it's a right fit. I'll call him he's a stretch big. He can play both power forward and also he could play center. So they got a versatility in him, and now he's in the prime of his career, and he's going to deliver for the Jazz, and I'm glad they have him. It was the perfect guy. Jazz made a great trade last Tuesday. The three guys they got all have value, and the Jazz, I would rate them as far as that trade. I give them an A. As far as the report card, they get an A. Remember, Sean, you and I, in our report card, we never got an A in our life, if you know what I mean, minus gym class. In case you're wondering.
Yeah, how'd you know?
Especially me, Sean.
Gordy, what's your list today?
My list today, Sean, we're talking about Darren Peterson and the draft, etc. This is my list in the current tense of the NBA 25-26 all undrafted team. I picked out 15 guys that were never drafted, Sean, which means June 20-something each year of the NBA draft, these guys were invited to the party. They weren't A-listers, but these guys all can play in the NBA, and some of them are borderline someday all-stars. Here we go. Number 15, Jock Landale from the Atlanta Hawks. He was a guy who against the Jazz the other day, had a double-double his first game with the Hawks. Number 14, Duncan Robinson from the Pistons. Number 11, Keon Ellis, defensive player that played for the Kings, now plays for the Cavaliers. Number 13, Julius Champagnie from the Spurs. Number 11, knockdown shooter from the Celtics, Sam Hauser. Number 10, just got traded from the Pelicans. He's grateful to his hometown New York Knicks, Jose Alvarado. Number 9, Dorian Finney-Smith of the Rockets. Number 8, we all know this guy's name. He impacts every game he plays in defensively, Alex Caruso of the Thunder. Number 7, his sidekick on the court, starts for the Thunder. He's a Canadian, also Lou Dort, undrafted. Number 6, we all know this guy also. He's a tremendous off-the-bench energy spark plug for the Indiana Pacers, T.J. McConnell. All right, number 5, this season, Jay Huff from the Pacers. He's fifth in the NBA in block shots at 1.9 blocks per game. He was never drafted from University of Virginia. He's been impactful for the Pacers. And when they get Halliburton back next season and they draft high in the lottery, the Pacers are right back in as far as contending for the championship. Number 4, in 2024, Sean, he was voted the sixth man of the year after not being drafted drafted from the Timberwolves, Naz Reid. Number 3, he plays for the Mavericks. He's tremendous as far as emerging player. He's defensive-minded. He's a Cooper Flag sidekick, Nazi Marshall. Number 2, this guy played in the G League for the last 2 years. He got called up by the Phoenix Suns. Now the Suns can't play without him in the game. He gives them stability. He allows Devin Booker to play off the ball, and the Suns now are 31-22 because of the new coach, but also because of this guy. His name is Colin Gillespie. He's averaging 13.6 points a game, 4.7 assists, 42.6 from threes, and he played in the G League till about half a year ago. And the number one player this year, on my all undrafted team, is Austin Reeves, undrafted out of college, Utah State. He plays for the Lakers. He's averaging 25.7 points per game, 6 assists, 50.8 field goal percentage from the field. That's my 15 top players this year, undrafted. Quickly, what about Jazz basketball? The number one player in Jazz history that was undrafted is Joe Ingles. The number one leader in the Jazz history with 1,071 career-made threes. That's my list for today, Sean.
Gordy, do you have any Olympic updates?
Oh, well, I know one thing. I love ice dancing. I know that. I love ice dancing. So I watch it with my wife and and I'm a sap at heart. I get emotional about when these skaters. I pray to the Lord they don't fall down and hurt themselves.
Yeah, the ice dancing so far has been good. We're just getting into all of our Olympics coverage here on the Sean O'Connell Show. So it's
what do you like? What do you guys like?
Well, James is our curling expert. I'm a big fan of the downhill events, like watching those downhill skiing. The dog that got loose on the track yesterday. I don't know if you saw that.
I did, yeah.
I love all of it. The Olympic downhill skiing is absolutely insane, and the new camera work that they do with the drone camera, Gordy, I think gives a much better sense than we ever had before of just how extreme those courses are.
Yeah, and then also the bobsled would be the bobsled competition, and we know that it's incredible, intense, and every second does matter. Every little angle, every little movement by a teammate affects the speed of the vehicle, and it's spectacular. I love it.
All right, Gordy will become our official Olympic ice dancing correspondent for these 2026 games in Milano.
Okay, I'll study it. Okay.
All right.
I like that.
Gordy,
I like
always appreciate your time and your contributions to the show, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out. Stay well.
Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA guru here on the Sean O'Connell Show. All right, it is a year since the Luka trade. How are things going for the Lakers? Great, as Gordy said. It's worked out spectacularly for them. Has it worked out badly enough for the Mavericks that they need a change in ownership? We'll talk about that next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Breaking news, and it's not from the early 2000s. You have not jumped into a time machine. How about this headline? Dallas Investor Group reportedly eyes Mark Cuban partnership to buy the Dallas Mavericks. Wait, what?
And
I'm sorry, what?
for those who may be out of the loop, because listen, things like this you could have missed, no matter how big an NBA fan you are. Mark Cuban has not been the majority owner of the Mavericks since 2023.
He sold
2024
to Patrick Dumont.
So it was not Cuban that ultimately signed off on the Luka trade last year. It was Patrick Dumont. So now he's trying to get back in.
He sold his majority stake in the team at the end of 2023.
23, okay.
For $3.5 billion, but he kept a 27% share, and he stepped away from day-to-day operations, which, by the way, is the coolest. Like, imagine this. I have this really cool thing. I'm going to sell most of it. I get to keep 27% of it, and I'm going to get $3.5 billion out of selling the rest. Wait, so you're selling this thing, you get $3.5 billion, but you still get to keep 1/4 of it? Yes. Wait, oh, so they must be like relying on you for your expertise, and you got to help make decisions. You got to be stressed out by the operations. No. I don't have to do any of that. But
he's actually kind of not allowed to do much, if any of that, as a minority owner. So yeah, it's an incredible arrangement.
Now, the backfire is you sell the majority stake in a team and they make a move that you never in a million years would have made. And then you're just like, well, wait a second. These morons that I sold it to just traded away our franchise player.
And like I just alluded to as I was clarifying what's going on for anyone who missed it a couple of years ago, he's still getting some of that backlash because there's enough people that don't have paid close enough attention to an ownership change like that probably realized or didn't realize that it wasn't Mark Cuban that signed off on the deal, right? So he's having to take some responsibility even though he wasn't part of it at all.
Now, apparently there's a certain amount of groundswell of support to see if Cuban could be part of this investor group that will buy back a majority stake and, I guess, restore his decision-making abilities in a case. Now, that's when the business deal becomes, I think, less of a win because, as you have seen, if you've been paying attention to pro sports lately, prices are drastically inflated now on professional franchises. So if he sold his majority stake for $3.5 billion, he's probably going to have to buy it back for like $7 billion, which is, I'm not great at math, but that's not a win for Mark Cuban in that case.
That's at least double.
At least not in the short term. That's not a win.
The other thing to consider here is you just have to be 50 at least. Well, like 50.1%. Right. You don't have to be. I don't know what his shares were when he sold off, but he probably was more than just over 50%. He probably owned more than 50% of the team, right? Probably, I would guess closer to 70% or higher. What he actually sold off. In this case, he's like, I don't have to buy back that much of it. I just got to get 23.5% back, which is going to be more than it was a couple years ago when he sold it, to your point, OC, but not he's not going to have to spend as much money as if he was determined to get 70 something or whatever it was that he sold off.
According to the internet, according to a quick Google search, a rudimentary, cursory, immediate satisfaction Google search, he owned 85% of the team before.
That makes a lot of sense. These guys these longtime owners up until recently, that was kind of the norm. I believe the Millers owned like 90% of the Jazz for the longest time, and then they sold about that much to Ryan Smith.
Mark Cuban, for $285 million in the year 2000, bought the majority stake in the Dallas Mavericks. So 285 to 3.5 billion, while retaining a much larger chunk than whoever he bought it from retained. I assume that, he had 85%, previous owner kept 15. He sold it for 3.5 billion, kept 27. Maybe now, if Dumont says he doesn't want to sell it, by the way, if Dumont sells it, he'll be like, all right, I'm keeping 35% or whatever. Man.
And then I'll buy back 16 in 2 years. How about that?
I need to borrow $1 from 3 or 4 billion people so I can buy myself a professional sports franchise.
That's a great way to put it. That's attainable. Just call 30 billionaires or 300 billionaires and borrow $1 from each.
All right, let's take a quick one here. We're going to come back with Jarom Jordan for a little bit of red and blue. Are we worried in Provo yet? Are they worried in Provo yet? And also a little trash talk, subtly, from Scott Drew, the Baylor coach, on a current BYU player. I bet you could guess which one. We'll get to all of that with Jarom Jordan next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, we're going to give Jerem Jordan his space to say whatever he wants to say about the game that happened. Just a little game. Nobody really cares about it this past Sunday. Red and Blues brought to you by our friends at Murdoch Ford Santa Quinn. Right now, they are going to beat any price that you can find on a set of Ford tires, and they're going to give you a $150 rebate. If you're looking for a work truck, like I'm talking about the big work trucks. I'm talking like the F450s, 550s, 650s. They've got them all at Murdoch Ford Santa Quinn. Tell them OC sent you. They'll hook you up. Jerem Jordan, welcome to the show. How are you? I'm going to take my medicine listening to a Seahawks fan.
Seahawks! I didn't even sweat, dude. That was so easy. And on the Niners field, that was like the best thing ever.
What a lame game that was. Just boring. It's going to go down.
I saw elite defense.
I honestly, I think
the entertainment crowd, I get it. But, yeah, it was domination, man. It was awesome.
I think we're just going to forget the Super Bowl ever happened is what's going to happen. That's how it's going to play out.
Don't ignore it when it's not convenient, you know?
Congrats to you and all the other Seahawks fans. I mean, it was a complete performance. It was a great game from Seattle's defense especially. Did you think Kenneth Walker was going to be the Super Bowl MVP?
I did, but I thought it would have been interesting if they had given it to Jason Myers as the kicker. Like, that would have been gnarly. Kenneth Runner the third, as we call him in my house, he deserved it for sure. Like, and that was awesome. His dad had never been to a game, or this whole season, and he was there. And Zach Charbonnet, the backup, had hurt his knee. He wasn't available, so it was awesome. And like Sam Darnold completed the greatest kind of comeback story for a quarterback ever. That was awesome. It gives you hope that, for, I don't know, people in your life kind of thing, but also like, I'm like, hey, the equivalent of this for BYU, just thinking about it in a BYU perspective, was like if Zach Wilson won the Super Bowl in like 6 years or something, after a couple different teams. It's like, oh, there is hope that if you take care of the football and you have a good defense and run game, like you can do it. And, I was thinking about, okay, what does this mean for BYU? The BYU model of operation last year was great defense, great run game that won a lot, take care of the football. And that's how Seattle did it. And that's how BYU went 12-2. And it's a winning formula. It really does win a lot of games. It's rarely the spread tempo team that wins championships.
It's really interesting because, that was one of the things I noticed about the game, right? It was like, that was if Utah football were going to win a Super Bowl, that's how Utah football would win a Super Bowl. And there's so many people that are like,
yes,
oh, that's such a boring, we don't like that. If you want to be, bringing in the top recruits now, you got to spread it out a little bit more, which is probably true. But oftentimes the best teams in college football, in the NFL certainly this year was a great example of it. It's just like you don't need some megastar quarterback who's making all these crazy plays. You need a bunch of really good guys who fundamentally play very, very well. And you got to be physical up front. And that's what Seattle was, and that's what Indiana was, and that's what Texas Tech and BYU were in the Big 12 conference.
It doesn't mean you don't have playmakers. You know what I mean? Like JSN was the offensive player of the year in the NFL, and Kenneth Walker III was one of the best running backs in the league, and a good O-line. And yeah, but like you have to go inside out. Like the Patriots got destroyed on the O-line, and some of that was scheme. Like Devin Witherspoon was in that backfield quite a bit. But yeah, when Bad Bunny rushes for more yards at halftime than your team, like that's not good.
The Bad Bunny, what was it? The advanced metrics that said he went like for like 140, 147 or something. Pretty good.
Next gen stats. Yeah.
Yes. So good. All right, let's get off of that lame game that, again, the annals of NFL history will just forget ever happened.
Hey, figure out your electrical station first before you
no
worry
joke
about that.
No joke. I want them to now just relocate everything. Move the practice field, implode the stadium. The Seahawks, your division rivals, celebrated a Super Bowl victory in your locker room. You can't wash that stank out. You just got to get rid of the place.
Hey, it is what it is. It was funny having Fred Warner on the pregame show. I thought in halftime and stuff. I thought Fred did a spectacular job. He's got a future in that if he wants.
How does that guy so good at currently being a great football player and also 100% camera ready and could jump into, analysis if he wanted to, like tomorrow?
First off, he's a good-looking dude. He's a good dude. His first interview, by the way, he came in as a wide-eyed freshman prior to fall camp on BYU Sports Nation, and we were excited about him because he was this 4-star that told USC no, and came to BYU, and we were like, this is great. He's got a younger brother we want to get in a couple years too. And so, yeah, seeing him that first day versus like he's on the Super Bowl coverage and he's the best middle linebacker in the league, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's probably the best defensive player BYU's ever had. In the NFL, that is. Like, I'm happy for him. And he was funny because he's like, I hate to give the Seahawks a compliment, but, and then he would talk about the dark side and what they were doing. So he did a great job. Shout out to Fred. He's awesome. Yeah. Plus, it was fun to see him in that commercial with Puka, like two of our boys together in the NFL doing great work.
You just brought him up, so I'm going to put it out there now. Like, Puka, somebody needs to have a talk with Puka right now. Puka's continuing to – I know that he's young and you can party and do dumb stuff when you're young, but it's like he lives in L.A., and the tabloid media is now going to be following him around because he gives them a little bit of fodder. What can we do to help Puka here?
Yeah, maybe a little less kind of public appearance kind of stuff might be helpful. Love Puka, love the family. Obviously, you want to keep it within a certain parameters that are probably good for him and everyone around him, but love Puka.
Yeah, hopefully, again, he's young. He's the best receiver in the league, at least in his age group. He'll hopefully figure it out, but fewer cameras following you is better, Puka, so try to achieve that if you can. All right,
we're just lucky. We're lucky there was no social media when Jim was at BYU. Just like nowadays it's hard to stay private, right?
Well, yeah. Honestly, when did social media, like the ubiquitous, everyone has a camera phone and is paying attention to you? So that was like a 2010 kind of thing, right?
Yeah, like Twitter started in 2009. Yeah, 10. Like when Jimmer, scores 43 against San Diego State and Kevin Durant's tweeting about Jimmer, it's like, oh, we're all like commenting on what each other's doing, and it's not on the MySpace page anymore. Like that's when it kind of went to the next level.
Yeah. So some of the greats at both schools that went through both schools never had to deal with any of that. Most of the greats at both schools never had to deal with it.
It's unique, and part of it is like part of the reason Puka is going to get maybe the richest contract of any receiver ever is because of it. You just have to manage the good of that and the bad of that.
All right, let's talk some BYU hoop. All right, this is it's an interesting team right now. Give me the level of optimism, excitement, panic, whatever. How is the fan base and the university atmosphere feeling about this BYU basketball experiment here in 2026?
Yeah, certainly a little bit of cause for concern. First 4-game losing streak in a while. By the way, BYU hasn't lost 5 games in a row. That's at stake tonight since 2005. Dave Rose and Mark Pope never had a 5-game losing streak, which is crazy. Granted, this losing streak's different. Arizona, Kansas, and Houston are in it. Those are 3 of the probably top 6 teams in the country. So a little unfair that these 3 are stacked together in that way. Oklahoma State was disappointing. BYU's not supposed to lose that kind of game. But to the committee, it is a quad 1 loss. It's not actually going to dent them that bad. BYU does not have a quad 2, 3, or 4 loss. They have quad 1 losses. They have 4 quad 1 wins, which is good. That's kind of top 20 in the country. But the rub is the expectation for this team was that it would be like a 1, 2, or 3 seed. Right now, they're a 6 seed with Lenardi. They're kind of a 5 seed, generally speaking. I still think BYU can salvage a 5 seed here. If you are a 6 seed, it's not the worst thing in the world because in 81 with Ainge and last year with BYU, they were a 6, and that has led to 2 of the 3 Sweet 16s for BYU. So it's not historically the worst thing ever. But it is a tough schedule. You got Baylor tonight, which is a quad 1 game. BYU just a slight favorite in that one. Colorado, BYU should dominate on Saturday. Jimmer Fredette getting his jersey retired. That'll be cool. At Arizona, home to Iowa State. Next week is massive. Those are 2 top 10 teams. UCF, West Virginia, Cincinnati. You're hoping you can get 3 wins there. Although that swing to West Virginia and Cincinnati is tricky. Texas Tech is your final home game. So you've got 3 of the top 4 in the final 8. It's not as tough as Arizona's schedule, which is crazy. Go look at that one. But it is tough. I'm hoping BYU can go 5-3 in that. If they do, I believe they will get a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. So all's not lost. It's just not what the expectation was. I was hoping BYU would be great. Right now they're good to very good. They have a chance to kind of put themselves in a good spot in the tourney with the 4 or 5 seed. They played a good non-conference, but they've got to fix the defense. Richie Saunders and Kennard Davis didn't make shots on Saturday. AJ's been awesome. I don't know that we can ask AJ to do much more. Rob Wright III tonight is getting his unwelcome back to Waco moment, so that'll be emotional on both ends probably. And so BYU needs a win tonight. I don't think they can lose tonight and feel like, yeah, everything's still great. Like, it's going to be okay. You need to win tonight.
Did you see or hear Scott Drew's comments about the Rob Wright situation ahead of this game?
Well, when he signs a contract, it would have been nice. Yeah, well, yeah, I did, and I get it. And he would have been the only returner, by the way. Like, everybody left. And so I get that. I get why he's upset. Yeah.
The Oklahoma State situation, obviously, you don't want to see your team lose a game on the road. Obviously, more disappointing because of, again, the Bleep the Mormons chant in the crowd. And I, as a non-member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I probably get bothered more by it than a lot of people who are church-going members. It rubs me the wrong way aggressively, Jerem. And when I see a $50,000 fine and kind of a delayed response from everyone involved, my wife is a member of the church. I get more mad about this than she does. Is the Big 12 doing enough? Is Oklahoma State doing enough? Is anybody doing enough to stop this from being a narrative in the Big 12 conference?
I'm wondering if anything will actually change unless there's an in-game, on-court, on the field penalty of some kind. Because, okay, it's $50K. First off, who gets that money? I'm not saying BYU should. I'm saying, like, where does it go? And should that amount be higher? Like, we just can't have that much hate for a religion. If they say F BYU, that's totally different. And honestly, I wouldn't even bat an eye at that. But when you bring religion into it, it's not okay. It's not okay. And honestly, my replies are full of hate from a lot of people, which is not okay. I don't wake up seeking hate. Like, I wake up seeking love. Like, we should just compete and love one another and have fun because life's hard enough without that. We don't need to add that to it. So I'm wondering if, one, the number needs to be higher on the fine, and then two, in game, if you all of a sudden you hear it, do you do something? But it is a little tricky to sort of adjudicate in the moment. Was it 15 students or was it 250 or was it 2,000? Like, it's hard to know sometimes, but yeah, this should not be tolerated, and I don't think it's going to stop unless there's something in game that occurs.
I think you're probably right. And again, the BYU does not need me to be its champion and wouldn't choose me to be its champion, but the idea that, it is somewhat shrugged at because it's the Mormon faith instead of, I don't know, the Catholic faith or the Jewish faith or whatever, is just so wild given the context of what BYU has attempted to do from whatever, a PR standpoint, a service standpoint. In this football season, every single week we had stories of BYU and BYU fans and BYU community going above and beyond to support, a Texas Tech team barber or a food bank at Iowa State or whatever it was. And yet this is still the response. I truly don't understand it. As someone who lived here for most of my life, and again, a non-member, a lot of people in my position found reasons to feel some hate or to have some problems. I just don't get it. And I don't get why the Big 12 doesn't take it more seriously.
And I don't equate sort of the entire fan base of that school when it happens, because there have been several over the last 5-10 years, right? And historically, I don't equate it to the whole fan base. I assume it's going to be, 100 students hot in the moment on the road during a game. So, but with that said, there needs to be a certain amount of intolerance when it comes to this kind of thing, right? We can't tolerate everything. That's crazy. There needs to be a certain amount of intolerance. I appreciate that the Big 12 steps in and does it, but is it enough? Probably not, because it continues to happen. So what's the league going to do? And I know that league is very appreciative and supportive, kind of what BYU does as a unique private Christian institution and so on and so forth. Hopefully we can figure something out and just compete and get on with our lives because, yeah, BYU fans don't want this, and I'm sure the administration with the league and the schools don't want these kinds of things either. We want to compete and have fun, but at the end of the day, it's like, all right, we all go home, and hopefully we're safe emotionally and physically here.
I started the show today talking about a Big 12 basketball game last night where Darren Peterson didn't play. And I probably was being completely unfair to the kid because I'm like, you're the number one team in the country is in your place and you're out because you're sick. There are very few sickness symptoms that I find to be worthy of sitting out of a game like that. But, we put him in the same conversation that we put A.J. DeBonsa in and, Cam Boozer in and some of these other guys that are near the top of the projected draft. And I feel like unavailability, the fact that that guy's missed games against top 5 teams should be counted against him one way or another, fairly or not, in this upcoming thing. AJ has been largely available, and I don't know what he's dealing with from a bumps and bruises or a sicknesses standpoint or anything, but should AJ's availability, for lack of a better term, make him more appealing to NBA teams relative to the elite competition he faces in that NBA projection?
I would think so, and I'm with you. Like, I did not understand why he didn't play. It's like, you can't even try? Like, it's that bad? You shouldn't be warming up then. If you can't warm up, then you can't play. If you can warm up a little bit, you should at least try, dude. It's just emotionally, that would have given your team an injection of life, but they figured it out without him. And frankly, they're used to this. They played half the games without him. And Kansas showed up, man. They were Melvin Council, Flory Badunga. Those guys were on it, man. It was crazy. I made sure that was destination viewing. Like, I watched it with my family. I'm like, you guys watch this game. This is a great college basketball game. Now that football's over, like, college basketball sort of owns the next kind of 8 weeks. And then we get into the NBA playoffs, and then we get into more baseball, and then football comes back. Like, that's our flow. And it was a great game. And I think Kansas is super dangerous. Like, if they can do that without Darren Peterson, it's wild. And Allen Fieldhouse was electric. BYU walked into that and felt that too a couple weeks ago. And Arizona was like, they're a great team. They needed a loss like that. Like, they might not lose. They might lose one more in the regular season or whatever, but that's a good team in March. They'll be battle tested. But I'm with you. Like, back to your question. If I'm an NBA team, I'm the Wizards, and I'm getting the number 1 pick. Do I want that guy? I would rather have a guy you know is going to play, unless you're going to tank for a couple years. But, like, is this how he is always? Is that just this year because of actual injuries? But the sickness thing now adds to it. He just unfortunately looks kind of flaky, and hope that he can get healthy and stuff. Because honestly, like, he's the most polished offensive player in the country. But like, AJ has a higher ceiling to me. And then Cam Boozer's like going to be super rock solid. I think we see what he is, and it's really good. It's a great draft. Kingston Flemings is right there as well. Like, 3 of the top 5 picks are probably coming from the Big 12, which is really fun. Yeah, I'm with you. I think he probably should be dented a little bit for not being as available as the other guys are.
Which Winter Olympic sport do you make yourself into a 2-week expert on?
Oh, nice. I haven't watched as much as I thought. I do like hockey already, so I'll go outside of hockey. Like curling, probably. Like last night when it's like the last stone is thrown, you have to take down Italy. Like, that was awesome. Like, clear, clear, clear. They're yelling that. I was like, oh, that was a great throw. It was a great, I don't know,
Yes.
scrub or whatever it is. Like, yeah, I love the memes that are like me at home on the couch eating a box of donuts, like seeing someone fail in a Winter Olympic sport. Pathetic.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, it's the old dodgeball when Ben Stiller's all fat or whatever. Yeah. It's like, oh, you were going 81 miles an hour down the ski hill and you fell, loser. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, with like Darren Peterson, he didn't play 6. Someone goes, Lindsey Vonn skied on a torn ACL. like, what are we talking about? Which is crazy, right? Like, that stinks. She broke her tibia. But I was like, American hero forever. Already was, but good gosh.
Yeah, and the statement that comes out, by the way, it's a complex fracture that's going to require multiple surgeries. You're like, man, that is a rough 13 seconds of skiing. That is really,
oh my gosh,
really bad deal.
Like, after she announced she was going to ski, I was like, sorry, what? You're doing what? Tom Hummel somehow didn't have an ACL on one of his knees, by the way, and played his career in the NFL. I was like, how does that work? Like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, I've never understood. You know what?
Tom Hummel's a white corner in the NFL with no ACL, and he survived. Like, how did that happen?
You know what? I need to get an orthopedist on to talk about this because it's one of the most like casual toss aside type storylines when you're just like, oh yeah, so and so has been playing on a ruptured ACL for 2 years now. You're like, wait, no, I thought that wasn't physically possible. Everyone else immediately has them surgically repaired, and then you hear about these guys like, oh yeah, I played my senior year of high school. I had no ACL. You're like, what? Then how did you run? I thought that's like not having a foot.
That's why I love sports, like just the humanity of it all. It's great. And like the Olympics are probably the best showcase that exists in terms of like this random dude that works at Home Depot is a gold medalist in TBD sport. Like,
yes.
It's awesome, man.
All right, Jerem, always appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, good luck against Houston tonight.
I will say the same for you against Baylor, kind of, even if I don't really feel it. That's Jerem Jordan, Red and Blue, brought to you by our friends at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. Check out if you're a business owner and you need something a little bit beefier than your average truck, your average work truck. If you need a van that's got a bunch of carrying capacity, I'm talking about the big boy vans. Murdoch Ford Santa Quin has all of it. They've got your consumer vehicles, your family cars, but if you're running a serious business, if you own like a landscaping company, a concrete company, check out Murdoch Ford Santa Quin for their fleet deals. And right now, take advantage of the tire savings. You don't always associate dealerships with great savings on things like tires. They will beat whatever price you bring them on 4 tires and give you a $150 rebate at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. Stained is coming to the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater October 7th. Seether, Hoobastank, and Hinder all opening up. We're giving away a pair of tickets every day this week during Topical Trivia right around 1:45. Stained, Seether, Hoobastank, and Hinder. Daily Dump, brought to you by Valley Plumbing, is coming up next. A lot of different stories to get to. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Air. They now handle heating and air conditioning as well as plumbing. Look, I had a couple weeks ago now, I had an experience with a leak at a rental property, and on a Friday afternoon from between 2 and 5 o'clock, that's the window that Valley Plumbing had to fix my problem. Condensate pump replaced, handled quickly, easily, cleanly. No muss, no fuss. Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The truck with the duck, tell them OC sent you. All right. James dug this up for me. Our good friend Adam Rittenberg, who's been on the show many, many times, did a coordinator change tracker, tracking all notable coordinator changes at Power 4 programs. And obviously there's a lot of this at Utah schools, University of Utah, with coordinator changes as the entire thing got tipped on its head when Kyle Whittingham decided he was going to go to Michigan.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
We're done. We're done with the not saying his name.
Honestly, it's just hard to keep track of.
All right. I mean, if we were to end the bit, we've been doing it for like a month or more than a month now. It's fine.
Yeah, I think because we were talking too much about him, now we're just going to casually mention him every once in a while.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. So, mentions, honorable mentions or dishonorable mentions, whatever. Notable joining new coaches. That's offensive coordinators at Utah, Kansas State, and Iowa State. And, of course, Kevin McGivern gets mentioned here. McGivern, who has extensive experience within the state, including 2 stints as Utah State's offensive coordinator, is obviously the guy. So no mention of his time at Weber State, which I'm going to have to air that grievance with Adam Rittenberg.
We're going to have to get Adam on the phone right now. Adam, come on.
Adam, what do you have against the Wildcats?
People know Weber State in Bristol. They probably don't.
Okay, can I just say this? The Crumble guy, Crumble Cookies has gotten more marketing and love and run from one single corporate head tweet than is ever justifiable. This is an article about one of the best college football writers employed by ESPN. All right? Promotion of note, BYU defensive coordinator Kelly Papinga. And the first sentence, thanks to Crumble Cookies and other influences, BYU kept coach Kalani Sitake. We can say whatever we want about that guy, all right? As Utah fans, as people who like chip instead of crumble, whatever. Crumble Cookie dude with that one tweet, time to get off the sidelines. He's still, months later, getting run on national publications, mentions of his involvement with BYU. That is the single most successful marketing campaign Crumble has ever run.
Does that also speak to the growth of the company too? Because they're nationwide.
They're nationwide.
Now.
They're everywhere.
Some of these other cookie companies, all due respect, have not had the nationwide reach that Crumble has had, so maybe that's part of why it's like that's recognizable and it was a funny story. I
think part of that's the business model. I think that they are the one that decided we're going to franchise. In any case,
but yeah, it is wild.
He's done well for himself.
Dude,
and we didn't talk about this enough, honestly, on the show because there was so much going on with Utah football. But Kelly Papinga being elevated to defensive coordinator because Jay Hill left to go to Michigan. He's been at BYU for multiple regime changes now. Kelly Papinga is the dude, like, every coach knows he's a good coach, and every coach at BYU recognizes that, like, oh, yeah, this guy is a huge part of consistency and culture at BYU. I don't know Kelly Papinga well personally. I've only talked to him a couple of times, but people that I consider myself close friends with are close friends with him and all have really great things to say about him. He's not the like sexiest, biggest name hire that you're going to see in the Big 12 Conference, but I like this elevation for BYU. And most importantly, so do certain players. Falatau Satawala, Evan Johnson. I don't think Isaiah Glasker really had another option in terms of the NFL, but obviously he could have hit the transfer portal, and they all like to stay because of Kelly Poppinga being elevated. So go check out that article on ESPN, Adam Rittenberg's tracker of the notable coordinator changes.
My question for you, OC, is should Colton Swan have been the guy mentioned here, or was Kelly Poppinga the right guy to highlight by Adam Rittenberg? And I'll say this, it makes sense that he would highlight Kelly Poppinga over Colton Swan in the sense that BYU is more nationally relevant this year because they got to the Big 12 championship game. The Pop-Tarts Bowl is become a big deal.
Well, I think also part of it is the fact that Jay Hill is so recognized now as one of the top assistants in all of college football.
That guy going to Michigan
and
makes it nationally relevant.
Yeah, and the fact that he's replacing Jay Hill is as big of a deal. And honestly, the player retention thing that they were able to achieve when the transfer portal opened and then closed without really BYU losing a dang thing. I mean, Utah fans, I know you hate to hear it. They got it humming down there in Provo right now from a recruiting standpoint.
I
Whatever
think,
rebuild has to happen under Morgan Scalley has to happen quick.
Yeah.
Because you can't fall behind. You're already behind financially. You can't fall behind in terms of competitiveness any more than 3 in a row lost in the rivalry game.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that Colton Swan's promotion to defensive coordinator is probably the next most notable in the conference, right? I mean, we don't follow the rest of the teams as closely as we do Utah and BYU, obviously, but I don't know that there's been, other than those two, I don't know that there's been a more notable promotion to coordinator.
Well, Colin Klein going back to Kansas State.
Well, but that's head coach.
Right. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think
we
Yeah,
could
you
be
could probably-
missing one. If someone, a listener, you want to text in if we're missing somebody obvious, go ahead and text us in 877-353-0700.
Where's Gary Patterson going? He's going to
He's
USC.
so that's Big
not
Ten.
that's Big 12 adjacent because of his former. But yeah, he's going to USC, so that doesn't count. Yeah, I think Colton Swan probably deserves to be mentioned as honorable mention beyond.
Now, just to be clear, the way he structured the article, he picked one per category, basically.
Yeah.
The one exception
Which
was
is better, by the way, than just throwing every name in there.
So Adam Rittenberg picked one per category, so we decided to highlight Kelly Poppinga for those, really good reasons to do that instead of highlighting a Colton Swan, who I think is also notable in the conference. But he also did it by conference, so Gary Patterson was mentioned as this for the Big Ten. Or he might have been blast from the past anyway. There's a bunch of different categories.
I don't know how many people were paying as close attention to this Alabama basketball Charles Bediako situation as I was paying. I was overly obsessed with this thing. He is now, again, ruled ineligible to compete for the University of Alabama. This is the guy, remember, who was drafted into the NBA, didn't actually make an NBA roster, G Leagued it, and then came back to the University of Alabama, was suing for his right to compete at Alabama again, got a temporary restraining order against the NCAA, so they couldn't block him. And the judge in the case was a big-time Alabama booster. So then that judge had to be removed, and then the NCAA, if you're keeping score, has not had any real wins as of late when it comes to eligibility cases. This is the first one they've had in a while, which is encouraging because you don't want to see – I don't think we want to see a situation where NBA players get to return. I'd rather see a situation where NFL players get to return.
There's only one small L in this, with this from the NCAA's perspective. Did you see Charlie Baker's statement? The quote, anyway, from his statement, he said, "This is where he basically applauded the ruling, right, and said that NBA players, pro players, should not be getting in the way of high school players who want to to fulfill their dream of playing college basketball. That part outstanding. Then he goes on to say, "Congress, please help us get this in order." It's like, Charlie Baker, I know you weren't in charge when all this mess was created, but this is happening because of you guys, not because Congress isn't making a federal law about it. Okay,
Yeah.
Let's remember that.
Like, just get your house in order. You don't get to just call Congress. Or actually, that's what big businesses usually do.
Yeah, why not?
How about this? Things are really coming up Seattle. As much as it bothers me to say that for the Seattle Seahawks, I actually really like the city of Seattle. I think every person I know from Seattle I like. The Seattle Sonics, the Seattle Supersonics, seem likely to return. The NBA Board of Governors, the rumor mill is spitting out the idea that sooner than later there's going to be a vote for the NBA Board of Governors, and the most likely outcome will be an approval for expansion, with Seattle and Las Vegas being the most likely spots to land an expansion NBA franchise. Seattle has the rights to be branded as the Supersonics, to bring back the old stuff. This would be a win for the NBA, I think. Seattle is a cool town. It's a cool sports town. Bring Seattle Supersonics back, and some of the throwback uniforms, all that stuff. Great news.
Yeah, they should never have left. And OKC's done. The OKC Thunder they're defending champions. They've obviously done very well for themselves in Oklahoma City, but that should never have happened, and it shouldn't have taken this long. It shouldn't have taken this long to get a team back in Seattle. That's always been a great NBA city, and it kills me that we've had a whole generation who don't even know that Seattle was an NBA city at this point. Obviously a great move to bring the Sonics.
Now, how quickly could this happen? Reports are that they could start playing as soon as the 27-28 season.
Okay.
Now, both cities, in the case
2 years from now,
in the case of Vegas and Seattle, they've already got arenas, right? They both have NHL teams that play in those arenas, and you could just, like Ryan Smith and company added the Utah Mammoth with relative quickness, you could do the same thing in those two cities.
One team from the West will need to move east. I don't know if you've been tracking that part of this whole thing, all these rumors, OC. And
didn't Gordy say that he thought it'd be like Minnesota, maybe?
I think it's going to be Memphis or New Orleans. Those two are, I believe, the farthest eastern team in the Western Conference.
I mean, Memphis is not Western by any stretch of the imagination.
For some reason, they've all, well, it's not for some reason. They were the Vancouver Grizzlies, and because the NBA has to keep them even. Each conference have the same amount of teams. They're like, okay, we're keeping Memphis in the West. But yeah, that one, Memphis is, I think, the more likely one to move east. And you know what? The Grizzlies fans should be thrilled about that with how weak the Eastern Conference is right now. Just saying.
So, Seattle, Vegas. I'm kind of curious to know what sort of branding they would go with for a Vegas NBA team.
The WNBA is the Aces. Maybe they do some kind of card thing. I don't know. I don't know what Aces is the best one to do if you're going to do a card theme.
It's kind of a miss for the WNBA to not be called the Queens, but if you're doing a card theme. Yeah,
that's true.
You could let the NBA team be the Aces and you could be the Queens, but they've already figured it out.
Maybe the clubs, all the nightlife in Vegas too. The Las Vegas clubs.
I mean, who knows? The Diamonds?
Diamonds.
The Vegas Diamonds?
That
would screw it up for the Utah Black Diamonds.
Yeah.
Which was a proposed branding for the hockey team. You could use it on the baseball field for our eventual.
That's a diamond. I don't hate that.
I
kind of hope they go Trappers, like the minor league team before the Bees.
Or the Gulls.
Yeah.
The old Salt Lake Gulls.
Either one of those.
The only thing I don't like I like the colors. It's effectively Miami Dolphins colors, the old Gulls stuff. The only thing I don't like about the Gulls thing is invariably people are like, wait, seagulls? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because then you have to explain, actually, there's a lot of seagulls in Utah.
The Great Salt Lake's like as big as one of your seas in
And then and let me
other
tell you
parts of the
and
world.
let me tell you a story about the crickets.
Yeah,
The
what
old
about-
Mormon crickets.
How about the Utah Crickets? Turn it around.
I think
I don't know about
again,
that.
we're a couple years out. I
Yeah.
think we're probably 3-4 years out from when we have to make these decisions on baseball. But the cutthroats would be a really, really cool fish / sort of like dangerous term kind of crossover.
And I would hope that there wouldn't be as much backlash as we got for. I think
Yeah,
Bill
people didn't
Riley wanted that for the hockey team.
Yeah, people didn't like it for hockey
because of the blades.
because it has actually happened.
It's happened,
where
and
people's have had their throats cut in hockey. So, all right, that's fine.
you're not
But
gonna get your throats cut playing baseball.
it's not a thing in baseball.
Unless
not that I'm
something
aware.
really illegal happens on the field.
Baseball spikes are not that dangerous to
No.
the human throat. Also, I'm sure people will come up. Remember, Mammoth kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That was not even part of the first survey. Ended up winning.
I wonder if Outlaws will get a lot of play because that seemed to be, other than Yeti, that seemed to be the most popular one besides Mammoth.
Maybe by then the Yeti cooler brand will have just
It's Yeti baseball.
have just died out.
Doesn't fit as well with
Doesn't
baseball.
fit as well with a baseball thing.
Oh, real quick, one more thing before we break. We got a rivalry game in Olympic hockey going on right now. Women's
Been big longer than it's been big in the States, right?
well,
Maybe it has.
I'll make another sport parallel here. Team USA, the U.S. women's national soccer team is the world power in soccer, the traditional world power in soccer, even though obviously soccer is a bigger deal around the world than it is here. But women's soccer been able to establish some dominance. So for whatever reason, we have more elite women's athletics than around the world.
Our women are more athletic than your women, world.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
In your face.
Also, Canada, what are you doing with red and black uniforms? We can all see your flag. We know what it looks like. It's red and white.
Unnecessary black. Like, wait, you can have a blackout uniform too? Like, come on now.
Oh. Check out the highlights. We just saw an amazing one where
Do you see the worker right next to him? The look on her face, like she's Team USA just checked or didn't just, but during the first period checked big time check on a Canadian player, and one of the workers had a front row seat, and she's like, "What was that?"
Okay, I have a question. I'm deliberately putting this in a short segment because it can get a little controversial for people, but sports and politics, most of the time, it feels like don't marry those two things. Let sports be a distraction from politics or whatever. What about in the Olympics, though? We'll get to that next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792 FM. Jeff Schwartz is going to join us at the top of our next hour to recap the Super Bowl, talk about the upcoming draft, evaluation process, all that stuff. Politics and sports. Just right off the top, is the Olympics a better or worse place to make your political points than the average sporting event, like than a pro sporting event? It is an international stage. The international community is paying attention. There's a long-standing history and tradition of people and even whole nations making political statements with their participation or lack thereof in the Olympics. So while a lot of us don't want to deal with political anything, social commentary, anything in the sports world, do you allow for more space for that in the Olympics? This question came to my mind today because there's a Ukrainian skeleton sledder whose helmet is painted with portraits of Ukrainian athletes who have lost their lives since the war with Russia began, since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And he's being told it's only practice runs and things like that, training runs for now. But he has been told by the Olympic Committee, you can't wear that helmet. That's a political statement. And he's like, well, I'm going to wear the helmet. And they're like, you can't. He's like, well, I'm going to. I want to honor these people. I want to commemorate their lives and the tragedy of their lives being lost. And the Olympic Committee is just like, no, that is a political or religious or cultural statement, which is allowed in Section 5-40 of the Olympic whatever. And he's just like, well, no, these are people that I want to honor. And they're like, you could wear an armband. They're giving him a special allowance to wear a black armband as a memorial. And he's like, I'm not going to wear the armband. I don't want to wear the armband. I want to wear the helmet with their faces on it. These are people, and a lot of them are, unfortunately, young people that have lost their lives in this conflict. And, you know, he's getting support from a lot of his fellow skeleton racers, his whatever they're called, ice track, downhill ice track.
Skeletons.
That's
not.
And he's also getting, and some people are just like, yeah, not the place for it. So where do you stand? 877-353-0700. Because, look, the Olympics is definitely a place where the international community comes together and the unity and all of that stuff is great. And for the Olympics to say, we don't do political stuff here. Absolutely, the Olympics does do political stuff.
Yeah, it's technically, like you mentioned, it's technically not allowed to do any kind of political demonstrations, political whatever, for any of the athletes to do that during the games. But as you said, there's a long-standing history of athletes making political statements. One of the first might have been, was it John Carlos in the 68 Summer Games?
I mean, Jesse Owens before that.
Yeah.
Not overt, like,
Jesse Owens was doing
and gesture.
Just by being himself
but
and
he
winning.
was just being making a massive statement by competing at the Berlin Olympics and beating the quote-unquote Aryan race.
As an African-American, absolutely.
Like, so, I mean, look, there's, the podium, the iconic photo of the fists raised in the Black Power salute, like that is probably the most famous symbol. But there's been a lot more. The U.S. has boycotted games. Other countries have boycotted games.
That, I guess, that doesn't count as political statement, political demonstration, because it didn't happen during the Olympics. But it's weird. It's weird that I understand why the International Olympic Committee, who is the governing body of all the Olympics, would want to take this stand, because the point of the Olympics is to set all that aside and let's come together and compete and promote goodwill in our world, right, through sports. But also, it is an international stage. There are problems in the world, and there are things that are happening in various countries and regions around the world that, hey, guys, the athletes ought to be able to do something to raise awareness for some of that.
Well, and I know that there was the U.S. skier that people got mad at because he made some pretty innocuous, in my opinion, statements about like, yeah, man, it's tough sometimes seeing the things that are going on in our country, and it makes him feel a little bit conflicted to be representing a country that right now is pretty unpopular around the world in some parts of the world or whatever. But like the discourse that comes from that is constructive and good.
Can be anyway.
Well, should be in the best case scenario. Like, if you can't talk about things and you're going to pretend that we don't have any problems, you're going to live in this weird state of denial and act like we're a perfect country and that everyone gets along. Like, it's just silly. I understand though, where some people are like, sports are not the place for it. And by the way, it's unfair to athletes in a lot of cases. Like, hey, you answer, excuse me, sir, I know you're really good at running fast, or you can jump high, or you can fly on those weird long skis. I would really like to know how you would solve all the world's problems right now. It's like, that's a little unfair. I get it. And I also understand why the Olympic Committee would be like, dude, if you let this Ukrainian guy put like a political statement on his helmet, then the next person wants to do their own political statement, and then it becomes a stage in which people are like, well, now this is what I'm going to do when I'm at the Olympics, and that can be distracting to the spirit of the games and of the competition. I didn't know the official policy, I guess, on things like that, because reporters are often asking athletes political questions and socioeconomic questions and things like that. It's always been a storyline around Olympic coverage, where someone comes from, their immigration status, like all these things. And from the Olympic Committee standpoint, it's just like, no, man, you're going to wear your country's uniform and you're going to shut up and ski, or shut up and sled, or shut up and run, or shut up and swim, or whatever. And it's really, I don't know, the Olympics, I guess, learning some of history through the lens of sport when I was younger, and that you brought up the best example, the John Carlos at the Olympics.
I forget the other sprinter, but there was two of the sprinters on the medal podium. John Carlos is the one that comes to mind. But yeah, that was as big a deal as it was, not just because it was an iconic photo and because the greater civil rights movement that was at its height in the 60s, but also because it was a direct violation of Olympic rules.
Tommy Smith was the other guy.
That's it. Yeah. So I'll say this with in regards to the Ukrainian athlete here, I don't like that his helmet with faces of victims of the Ukrainian-Russian war is considered a political statement, even though I kind of understand why they would say this. I don't care if this is a gray area. We're calling this a political statement. It's like he's trying to honor his countrymen. He doesn't have anything disparaging about Russia on his helmet. He's got faces of people who died, his fellow countrymen. Like that I don't know if that should be considered a political statement, but
yeah, I don't know. It's
it is in the gray area though.
It's one of these things where it's like, in sports radio, you're supposed to have kind of a firm take, hot take on whatever. And it's one of these things where I'm like, I would rather hear what people think about it. 877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports. As long as we're talking about it, by the way, go look up Peter Norman, who was the Australian silver medalist on the podium with the two Americans, Tommy Smith and John Carlos. And he wore a pin in solidarity with them.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, the backlash that he received when he went home, it's a really, really fascinating story. It was a very complicated time in political history, certainly in the United States. But when he went back to Australia, people were just like, what are you doing? So just, if you have time, go look up his story and how he was handled.
Well, and he didn't do the fists. He just had the pin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And he, I think publicly stated that he supported their right to protest, whatever. In any case, go look up his story. Jeff Schwartz is going to join us next. We'll recap the Super Bowl, talk about what's coming in this NFL offseason and the pre-draft process starting. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. We welcome Jeff Schwartz, NFL and college football and betting expert. Jeff, how are you?
I want to thank you for helping
Jeff,
us
you got me?
win. Yes, I'm here.
Oh, he's
Got
here.
me.
There.
We're
there
good.
he is.
There we are.
Hey, pal.
I was saying I would like to thank you for helping me on Sunday with a small donation. It's not really about the donation. It's more about my wife, who decided on Super Bowl Sunday to ask my friends to donate money for a contest, essentially. And essentially
a fundraiser, like a kid's fundraiser or something?
So basically, a friend of ours is doing a fundraiser, and we're part of it. We're doing cancer research for my late father-in-law who passed away from a blood cancer, but she has her main fundraiser, and there's like little, there's kind of like little arms off of it, right? We're one of the arms, and on Sunday at midnight, you got a bonus. You got $1,000, I think, added from the organization if you had the most states that donated to your cause, right? The fundraiser still runs through the end of March, I think. So they were over our house, Claire, who has the fundraiser, and they were talking about this. So my wife decided to grab my phone and start texting everyone I knew in the second quarter of Super Bowl Sunday, asking for money from different states. It was $25. Like, we're not asking for $1 million, but like, I was like, Meredith, it's Super Bowl Sunday. Like, you understand that, right? Like in the second quarter of Super Bowl Sunday. And she's like, did so-and-so answer? I was like, no, it's Super Bowl Sunday. They did not answer.
People are busy. They're watching.
I knew you would answer. So thank you for that. I knew another buddy of mine in Connecticut would answer. But I appreciate your donation. Thank you. But just a perfect Meredith thing, like middle of Super Bowl, the second quarter of the most watched game of the entire season. And she's grabbed my phone to text people for a good cause, but nonetheless on Super Bowl Sunday.
She's a wild card, and I love it.
It's just, oh, man.
The game, did it play out the way you thought it would?
Yeah, I said 24-13 Seahawks. So, yeah, exactly. Now, the final score was pretty close, but the way it played out, I think, was not what I imagined. I didn't imagine Seattle just dominating. But look, man, football can be complicated, right? We can certainly talk about it that way. We can make it complicated. But in the end, it actually is very simple, right? Are you better in the trenches? Are you better at tackling? Are you better at quarterback, right? Are you better on special teams? Like, all those things mattered, and they all mattered in this game. They all mattered in this game. Seattle's punter was fantastic in this game. The kicker was 5 for 5. Those things all mattered in this game. They're better in the trenches. They sacked. Ended up being 6 sacks, even though it was really an interception touchdown. The one that was caught and on the strip of Drake May. That could have been a 7th sack, but it was ruled an interception, not a sack. So, like, they dominated the trenches, man. Like, that sometimes is how simple sports can be, the NFL can be. So, it's Seattle. Look, they had a choice: Pete Carroll or the GM John Schneider, and they chose the GM, and they're paid off handsomely with a Super Bowl and with a roster that he has built up from scratch. It feels like just an incredible job by Seattle staff to get here. McDonald was great. Just a really good win. It's a quality football win, man.
What does it say about the Patriots that it went down the way that it went down? That they gave up more sacks than any team ever has in a playoff run. And we'll get to Will Campbell specifically here in a second. Hello to the dog.
My daughter's home. That's why he's.
And just like they're a young team still. So are they going to be able to sustain this success?
So my pushback on the Patriots that heading into the game was I didn't think they were an overly talented team, right? When you look at their roster, their starters, right? So Drake May, I think we agree, really, really good, right? Christian Gonzalez, one of their corners, was great, played great in this game, right? I mean, if there was like a defensive MVP, maybe it was going to be him, right? He was great. And then you look at the defensive tackles, right? Barrymore and Williams. Barrymore's name wasn't called all game. Williams got a sack on the Seattle right guard, which I thought would be an advantage for them in this game. That's it. Like, they don't have a lot of good football players relative to other Super Bowl teams, right? Seattle, you could rattle off a bunch of guys. I mean, just JSN's better than anyone New England has on their team, right? And so so New England just has to get better. Now they have the quarterback, which is the start, but they just have to get better around the quarterback now. So and their schedule's going to be much tougher this year. They're not going to play an easy schedule like they did this past season. So it does feel like a much tougher task to get back to where they are than Seattle, that has a ton of cap space, a super young team, and feels much easier for them to just get back to where they were this year.
All right, let's talk about Will Campbell.
Yeah,
he's being dragged right now for
yeah.
having a really rough game, and that's going to happen, I imagine, to young offensive linemen sometimes. But you don't want it to happen in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I've seen some of your comments on it. I don't know if our audience has seen the same stuff I've seen, so share.
Yeah, so, didn't play very well, as we know, and he spoke to media today, did not speak after the game, which, I don't know. I thought it wasn't great, but in the end, doesn't matter. He spoke today. So essentially, it's just so funny, man. So he's listed at 6'6", and I believe it's like 320, right? But he doesn't play 6'6", 320. And I've made the comment a couple times, like, he doesn't play big. And people are like, well, 6'6", 320, he's playing big. He's not the same 6'6", 320, right? The right tackle for New England, 6'6", 320. Go look at them. Go look at Morgan Moses and Will Campbell. They're not the same player. And so he plays a style of football, in my opinion, at the position that doesn't benefit his body. He tries to do too many things that sort of big guys can do, but he doesn't play big. He's not that strong. He's not strong enough to do those things yet. And I put in the video, that he had some good reps in this game. It wasn't all bad, and the good reps were how he needs to play almost all the time, with a couple exceptions. And he can do it. He showed he can do it various times in this game. So to me, it's just about honing that in, right? He's a rookie. He's young. Just do what works for you. Don't try to do too much, and you'll be fine. I'm not concerned by it. Obviously, in the moment, it's miserable because it's a Super Bowl. Your eyes are on you. They didn't lose because of him. But that's where it needs to be fixed. Just hone your technique in. You want to use a technique that really is, again, like, you're not a big guy, even though you're listed big. You don't play big. You don't have big physical features. Again, look at his butt, look at his legs, look at his back, his wingspan is it's not the same thing. So even though you're listed big and you might think you're big, like, it's not how he plays, Sean, right? He can't play, in my opinion, he can't play the way he played in this game. So it's easy fix. He's got to fix his technique. He can do it. He's plenty good enough when he gets his hands on guys. He just doesn't get his hands on guys quick enough.
Is that an off-season fix, or will it take longer than that?
I think he can fix it this offseason. And, being healthy is going to help, right? He has a bum knee, which, everyone this time of year has something going on. His knee feels pretty bad. And so, with a little bit of health, I think he'll be fine. I'm not concerned about it. I'm really not. He was playing fine before he got hurt. He missed 4 weeks in December-ish time range, and he'll be fine, man. It just sucks. It's in the moment, right? It's in this moment when everyone's watching and everyone knows your name, and it's kind of the worst spot to be for an offensive lineman.
Jeff Schwartz is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. So I saw a headline that Max Crosby is done with the Raiders. He doesn't want to play for the Raiders anymore, told Tom Brady as such. He's bothered by the fact that they shut him down, et cetera, et cetera. Seems like a fractured relationship. But obviously they've got a new coach coming in.
Yeah.
And, even Tom himself is relatively new to the ownership situation, so you could potentially get more out of him, whatever. Is that a relationship you should try to repair, or you just say, all right, you know what, it's not going to work out. Let's get some value out of a guy like this if we can.
So today, Clint Kubiak was in Vegas, the new head coach, the Seattle's offense coordinator, and he said he spoke to Crosby this morning. They had coffee, and I think that you can't let guys like that leave the building, right? He is, for all intents and purposes, a great leader, right? We've heard about his leadership, his work ethic. He wants to be a Raider, right? Like, you need those guys, in my opinion, to be in the building. And look, could you get extreme value for him? Probably. I bet you could get a good return for Max Crosby. If you view that return as greater than the leadership you're losing, okay, I can buy that if you have a new coach and you want to reset. But I feel like Crosby fits every coach. That type of player he is, and so I keep him any way I can. And you have to start repairing that relationship with the front office, with him and Crosby. Obviously, new head coach now, so that relationship starts brand new. I would try to keep him as best as possible. I really would resist any urge to trade him.
Now we turn our focus to the upcoming NFL draft process.
I think it's like college basketball. I was a little worried.
Well,
I do have BYU covering tonight, by the way, so there we go.
We'll get to some Olympic betting here in just a second, but what right now for players that are getting ready for this upcoming NFL draft, like give me your hierarchy on the most important parts of the process that none of us get to watch.
Well, I mean, it's just, it's to me, it's about, making sure your body is prepped for the combine, right? And that includes, make sure your diet, your rehab. I was trying to cut weight. Like, that's what I had to do. I had to cut weight. I had to watch every single calorie that went in my body to make sure I was prepared to be my best at the combine. And, mentally, right, just having an idea of what your sales pitch is going to be. You're going to meet with all these teams. They're going to talk to you. They want you to be authentic, of course, but you know, I think you need to sort of have an idea of what you want to say to these teams in these meetings. So it's just about getting all those things prepared to get ready to go to the combine, right? The combine, you're probably not going that far up in draft stock with the combine, but you can go down very, very fast if you don't handle your business. It's a job interview that you should ace. It's coming. Failing a drug test is just to me a mortal sin at the combine. Like, come on, I know NFL. I'm not even sure the NFL tests for stuff anymore. I think they still test the combine though. Like, just be a professional, right? And so those are things that guys are going through right now to get ready to go. And I've said this many times, you're in a cycle now where, your college football season ended. So you've been going since August, and you basically don't stop until the end of your rookie season, man. It's a nonstop grind until the end of your rookie season. So they're just in the middle of this right now. It's a fun time because you're thinking about your future. You're preparing for the NFL. But the combine, it's super important to put your best foot forward there.
What Olympic sport are you most intrigued to bet on?
Well, I didn't bet on it today, but I watched that ski sprinting.
The cross-country skiing where they're just running uphill?
Running up a hill, yeah. It's pretty wild. And the American finished second today, which I think was our first medal in that sport since like the early 70s. But this guy, I think it was Norwegian, like just he's the favorite, just like took off and sprinted immediately. I loved how everyone turned into a ski expert on Saturday. Was it Sunday morning when Lindsey Vonn got hurt? Everyone was like turned into a full-on expert on skiing.
Oh, it's the best part about like World Cup soccer, Olympics, anything that happens in like a 3-4 year cycle where we ignore it and then we become huge experts on it overnight. I love that about these events.
So I've not made many wagers yet on much. I hope to do more. I mean, hockey, I'll probably be able to put a little bit of, put something on. I saw the idea the other day. It actually sort of makes sense. Shouldn't basketball be played right now at the Olympics? Why is it a summer sport?
I mean, I guess, but doesn't it feel more like a summer sport?
It's played during the winter.
I know, but doesn't basketball feel more like a summer sport?
Sure, but it's physically played during the winter, so that's why I'm asking. I'm just curious. Like NHL's taking a break right now, right? To play, to do this. Why? It just seems. I mean, it would really give a pizzazz to the Winter Olympics that they need. I feel like to have some NBA.
If you had a bunch of dudes running around in shorts and tank tops at the Winter Olympics,
they'd be inside though.
I know, but even the indoor events at the Winter Olympics,
I know everyone's wearing.
It's on ice.
I'm fascinated by the ice skating, the speed skating is like fascinating to me. It's been fun to watch and root for. I heard you on earlier talking about the athletes that are voicing their opinions on our country, and I know I heard you say something like it's sort of like not maybe the appropriate time to do so, or they're it's. But I feel like isn't this the only time for them to do this?
Well, no, I think I
Is that how
net
you
out
phrased
more
it?
on. I did it out
maybe
more
you
on
said it
like
wrong.
some people feel like you want to, don't talk about it, but it's like, and the Olympics, this is the time where you have the most
Yes.
like universal audience, right? And
Yes.
whatever it is you're trying to say. So yeah, like and because of, I think some of the big stories of sports history from my youth were associated with the Olympic Games, like with boycotts, with protests at the Olympics, things like that. I've always felt like the Olympics are more political than like professional sports. And I probably
Yes.
I probably have more of an interest in hearing what Olympians think of it, because I'm this way. Like, if you have $500 million from your NBA career, I probably don't care what your political opinions are, because you don't live a real life.
Yeah.
You don't have the same concerns that any other like citizen of this country has. If you're like just some random dude who worked for 4 years so that he could
Yeah.
slide down a hill fast, you probably have a regular job and I don't know, but
I know what you're saying.
yeah, it's I have always associated the Olympics with more political discussion rather than the opposite. But the official rule at the Olympics is you can't make political statements or religious statements or racial statements.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that like the USA rule or the IOC rule?
It's the Olympic Committee rule.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. The thing that, look, this country, I feel like it's the most American thing to be able to speak your mind without repercussion at the Olympics. Like, you might disagree with the thing they're saying, but this, the people that are like, just shut up and ski. And I mean, this is the most American thing you can do is like voice your opinion without repercussion from the government.
Well, that's
Like,
something. It's a nuance of our Constitution that people have really lost. Like, everyone loves free speech as long as it's free speech they agree with, and when it's free speech that they don't like, they're just like, no, that's bad. Don't put it out there anymore.
I don't like I also just don't like have the energy to care about things like the halftime show. Like Bad Bunny seemed fine. I don't know. My daughter loved it. She knew all the songs. We had some friends over that knew the songs. Good. It was good visual. The trees being humans was very funny. I know that afterwards.
them all running out onto the field
yeah.
like little living trees was pretty.
But, I'm worried about placing some bets and eating some food and go to the bathroom. I mean, I'm not concerned as much with the halftime show, but like people had such just really like steadfast opinions on it. I'm like, what? Why? What? It's a halftime show. Like, the thing about it is that people do seem to really have a hard time with the idea that not everything is for them, right? Like, the Super Bowl halftime show is not always going to be for you. There are going to be artists who sing in English that I don't like, but it's not for me. Like, it's okay to just say that. Like, it's not for you. And so people have just a hard time, Sean, it feels like, with just acknowledging that it's okay if not everything is for you, right?
Yeah.
And that show was clearly for someone. Even if it wasn't for you, it was for someone. And just you can accept that. It doesn't have to be for you all the time.
Well, for me, I tried to carefully make my statement about I'm not like the politicization, like people trying to make that about politics. I refuse to even participate in that. For me, it was just like, oh yeah, like this is for a younger audience that listens to this music. I'm
Yes.
just an old now. Like when
You
when they did the halftime show where it was like Jay-Z came out and they were doing all these like throwback songs and Ice Cube and all that, I was like, okay, this is for me.
Yeah.
And there were probably a lot of young people or people older than me that were like, this is not for me. This one was the first one, I think, where I was just like, I don't know any of these songs. I have not listened to any of these songs. Even if I don't speak perfect Spanish, I would not these would not be my favorite songs because I don't listen to that station on the radio. And like, it just made me realize I'm just old.
Well, I don't know if you're old. I just think, again, like, it's not like my daughter knows the songs because they're on like TikTok radio. Like, it's not like she knows the lyrics. She's like, oh, Dad, I've heard this song. I've heard it. I'm like, do you know the lyrics? No, I don't know any of the lyrics. Like, so, I mean, it just is what it was, man. And like the back and forth on social media over this, to me this week, just it was embarrassing. It's so silly, that the culture war over the halftime show. Come on, guys. What are we doing?
Yeah. Concerts are not the most important thing going on in or around our country, I promise. The game itself was, a little boring, if we're being honest. The commercials were lackluster. Was this a successful Super Bowl for the NFL when they look back at it in 2 weeks?
The only commercial I saw was the Ring camera one, where I feel like everyone's going to if you say companies sabotage themselves more than Ring did. Did you see that commercial?
Where it says they can find your dog for you or whatever.
Yeah. So they basically have facial recognition software that's easily accessible.
Yeah. So they're basically Ring camera admitting to the entire world, we're tracking your movements.
Which, I mean, I guess in theory, you should have maybe already suspected they could do that, right? Like, they didn't feel like something that, but like now they put it out there, and you're like, all right, Ring. Well, good luck on that. I don't watch any commercial. Look, the Super Bowl, you have good ones, you have bad ones, man. I thought it was fine. Like it was, to me, it felt like one of those games that wasn't. It was a defensive game that was good because the defenses played well. It wasn't a situation where both quarterbacks were so bad that the defense was good, if that makes sense, right? Like we saw high-level defensive play from really both sides. And so the fireworks might not have been there offensively, but it wasn't bad because both offenses stunk, right? Like it was good. Just both defenses were really good.
This is going to be a relatively thin quarterback draft, at least at the top. So what position is going to fill in the blanks where, there's an extra 4 quarterbacks usually? What position is going to benefit?
It feels like a meat and potatoes draft. It actually feels like an off-the-ball linebacker. There's a lot of off-the-ball linebackers that might be, near the top of the first round. It's not a lot of first-round offensive tackles this year. But there's going to be a lot. I think there's going to be 10 to 12 to 15 guys drafted that don't have first-round grades. But it's a meat and potatoes draft, man. Defensive linemen, linebackers, some interior offensive linemen, running backs feel very strong in this class. It feels like that type of year.
All right, we're 5 minutes past the time I'm supposed to keep you to.
I gotta go pick up my son. So.
All right, dude.
Bye, buddy.
Thanks. Jeff Schwartz. Man, we're going to have to find reasons to bring Jeff Schwartz on. And usually after the Super Bowl, we give him a little bit of a break because it's not football season anymore.
One more week so he can give us one bobsledding update, right?
I'll tell him.
Yeah, hey,
no football questions, just 100% bobsled.
Just bobsled. You can tell us. You can expound more on the meat and potatoes of this draft.
All right. Are you mad at the Utah Jazz right now? We got to talk about that next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. We're going to give away some stained tickets with topical trivia next. Are we bothered that the Utah Jazz are fourth quarter tanking? Is this something that bothers you? Because they took a big swing. They moved some players. They moved some picks. They added a defensive-minded all-star that I think makes them a unique front court in the future. Not this year, but in the future. And as most of us know, there's a pick that they need to protect, and right now they're too good for that pick to be guaranteed protected. Now, the way to handle this and avoid NBA fines, you got to let your players play. You can't sit them out for games. You can't fake them injuries and illnesses. Darren Peterson, I'm talking to you. But you can pull them in the fourth quarter. You can pull them in the late third quarter. You can substitute in ways that would be otherwise questionable and or punishable by firing because you're trying to manipulate results. Now, look, Austin Ainge looked me in my face and said, you won't see that this year. I'm okay with it because we're all going to be really, really mad if that Jazz pick goes to OKC instead. We're going to look at them and we're going to say, how did you let that happen? And if the response has to be, well, you guys got mad at us for tanking, the NBA got mad at us for tanking, so we didn't tank. The team is a little bit too good to be just as bad as we need them to be, so instead, another young championship caliber squad got our pick. Sorry, everybody. So protect the pick. Do it by sitting Triple J, sitting Lowry Marketing, sitting Keontae George.
Trey J. Let's go.
Sit Trey J down.
He's still scored, 20 points in 3 quarters?
And now you're going to have to, sit down Bryce Sensabaugh. You're going to have to You're going to have to add a bunch of, two-way guys at the tail end of the roster. Let them play.
Green light, Svi Mikhailuk.
Let's go,
ahead,
Svi.
man.
Svi,
go off, bro.
You're our number one on-ball player.
No,
I want you to be ball dominant, Svi.
I'm convinced that's the only reason he's still on the roster is to do this.
At the end of the day, right, to achieve the result that you want, you have to be bad. And there are national headlines now being written about the Utah Jazz. They pulled Lowry Marketing in the fourth quarter. What are they doing? You know exactly what we're doing. You know exactly what every other NBA team in this situation is doing.
When the Jazz, I've seen plenty of these comments on social media, and they're absolutely right. The Jazz are not the first. Why are we acting like the Jazz are the most blatant and the first people to do something like this? It's crazy. OKC, by the way, did this. They sat Al Horford for an entire season because they were like, yeah, you make us a little too good.
Well, and that is now punishable by NBA rules.
Yeah.
I think it's the out of sight, out of mind thing. If a guy is never in the game because he's got some made up back problem, it's for whatever reason more palatable for some folks.
Even though that's what will give you the fine. Nine straight games like that for Lowry last year. That's what fined him. Doing this is not against the rules at all, and it should not be.
But I guess when you're on 19 points and 9 rebounds and your team has an 8-point lead and your coach pulls you and sits you down for the fourth quarter, everyone's like, hey, what the heck, man? Why'd they do that? I'm not mad.
I'm not either.
If you are, that's great. That's fine. If you feel like your season tickets or your single game tickets are not worth it because of seeing this, I understand. This is a competitive move to try to make the long-term prospects of the Utah Jazz significantly better. And that's what I have to support for now.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not advocating. I'm not saying that no one should go to Jazz games when I say this, but if you're worried about your season tickets not being worth very much or whatever, or the tickets you bought to the game, you should have known that this was going to be the deal before you bought those tickets. I mean, that part of that's if you didn't think that this was going to be, if you're like, well, this makes it not worth it, the amount of money I spent, it's kind of on you to not realize that this is what they're doing this year. I don't care what Austin Ainge said in the offseason. We all figured he was lying because we knew that they're going to have to keep this pick. But yeah, I'm not mad at it at all because you can't afford to lose this pick. And so many, like the Toronto Raptors were the worst ones at doing this exact thing. They would play, like I was at a Jazz Raptors game last year, and in the same section as where I was sitting were Raptors media, and I heard them jokingly saying, "Let's take bets on when Scotty Barnes gets pulled in the fourth quarter." Like this is what teams do in this situation.
And by the way,
and
it is
fine.
going to help you achieve the goal of competing for playoffs sooner than later. You were on a trajectory where if you win too many games this year and you lose that pick, not only do you set yourself back, but you give one of the best teams, the best team, the defending champs in the West, you give them more. You make them better. So you have to do what you have to do, and it sucks, and it's not fun to have to watch, but hopefully you rip that Band-Aid off this season, and then it gets better moving forward. And you have a curling update,
I do.
James.
I do have a curling update, and should have some very sad music playing behind me. I'll just say it was a heartbreaking loss for Team USA in the mixed doubles gold medal game, the first ever gold medal game for Team USA in mixed doubles curling. 6-5, Sweden comes out with the win. First Team USA silver medal though, so that's awesome. What a run by this mixed doubles team. The US,
Sweden.
We were up 5-4 going into the final end. Came down to the final stone. The brick is what they call it. Sweden knocked one of the US's stones out of what they call the house. That's the circular scoring area there to clinch the gold medal.
Well,
so they had two stones in, which was if they had not knocked the one US's stone out of the house, they would have it would have went into extra ends, if you will. But they successfully knocked it out of the house and came away with the 6-5 win. So very exciting ending. Congrats to Sweden, but this is going to take a long time for me to get over, OC. This heartbreaking loss in the gold medal game.
Go have some lingonberries and shop at IKEA.
Yeah,
Swedish gold medal idiots.
One other
By the way,
game.
Sweden, guess how warm it is in Stockholm right now?
-5.
It's actually kind of a nice day for their winter.
Oh.
It's 17 degrees.
It's balmy, 17 degrees. One other game of note happened today, the bronze medal game, of course. Italy, the defending gold medalists, and the home nation, of course, they beat Great Britain 5-3 to earn the bronze medal. And next up in the curling world is the men's round robin, the preliminary round for men's curling. That begins Wednesday, and at some point we'll have women's curling as well in these Olympics. The first game is Team USA versus Czechia at 11 local time. So I'll be all over that tomorrow. We turn the page.
All right, we'll give away some tickets to Stained next, and we'll have a little crosstalk with Spence Checketts as we close out the show. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, Stained is coming to Utah. I got to look up the date again. Stained tickets to the person who can answer October 7th. That's when it is. Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater, October 7th, 877-353-0700. We talked earlier about the report that Mark Cuban may or may not be looking to repurchase a majority stake in the Dallas Mavericks along with a group of investors. How much percentage-wise of the Mavericks does Mark Cuban currently own? 877-353-0700. Crosstalk brought to you by our friends over at Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100 for $2,500 off 10 windows or more. And Crosstalk means Spence Checketts is here in our Broadway studios. Hi, Spence. Team USA, by the way, women's hockey 4-0 going into the third period against our rivals to the north, Canada, wearing their stupid blackout uniforms. Spence, what just happened? What just happened? Spence getting his headphones untangled. Did you get headbutt? Oh, did he hit you with this claw? You don't look like you're bleeding. Sorry. All right.
Hello. Are we
There
here?
he is. Spence Checketts.
I love your dog. Happy birthday, Rocky.
Yeah, it's his birthday. He's turned 1 today.
What happened is Rocky came over to say hello.
Okay.
And I love Rocky. And he jumped up, and my headphones got caught in his claw. So my headphones were pulled out of the insert situation over here. So I was trying to get the headphones out from his claw, and he, of course, is such a friendly dog. He was saying hello.
He's like pawing at your face.
I think he caught my lip. But
Did it go in your mouth? Do you have like a Rocky scrape on your gums right now? Are you going to lose a tooth?
No. I think I'm good. I think there's just a little lip blood, but it's all right.
Wow.
It's good. I need it.
HR complaint against Rocky.
It makes me feel alive, Sean.
Wow.
How are you, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Good conversation heading into the studio today. It's the incentive structure, and I heard you talking to Gordy about this a little bit. It's the incentive structure of the league. In fact, James, can you hear me, James? Do you have Google available? Do you have your computer up? Because to show you how old this is, and I don't remember the exact number, but Google David Robinson games played in 1995, 1996. I think he played all 82 games that year, as David Robinson often was wont to do.
You're wrong. He only played 81.
Okay, so maybe it was 90. So 96, 97. I think he played 6 or 7 games the very next year, right? If I remember that correctly.
Let me pull up his full participation.
Yeah, David Robinson, kind of like John and Carl, he was known as a guy that wanted to play all 82, and more often than not played all 82. 96, 97. Do you have that up?
Let's see. 96.
He played 6 games.
Played 6 games. Okay,
and the Spurs.
So here's as the story goes,
no.
Sean.
95, 96, he played 82.
Yeah.
Google lied.
Yeah.
He played all 82, according to basketballreference.com.
Right.
And then 96, 97, he played 6 games.
Do you know who was a senior at Wake Forest in 1996, 1997?
It was probably Tim Duncan.
It was Tim Duncan. And as the story goes, okay, now I was not in the Spurs training facility. As the story goes, David Robinson had a legitimate injury and then came to the team, was like, hey, I rehabbed. I'm good. And they're like, no, you're not. Watch this kid at Wake Forest. You're going to take a lot of time off this year.
Wow.
Because we think he fits perfectly next to you. And they were right. They won a championship in 99 with those two. And then we all watched Tim Duncan lead that generation of Spurs basketball. There was literally a dynasty for like 18 years. So all this conversation about, and look, the competitive side, and you're a competitor, Sean, the competitive side of me believes that the endeavor lacks serious integrity. and you are in the wrong business if you're not front-facing about competing. I believe that to be true. But I ask Jazz fans, would you want your team to win 29 games this year and then have the 9th pick in the draft and then have that pick go to OKC, as you were discussing earlier? This rebuild is almost to the point where we're ready to go, okay? It has been, by pretty much any metric, the worst 4-year stretch of Jazz basketball. The worst 4-year stretch in 50-plus years of Jazz basketball. We are at the end of it, okay? And there's potential that there's one more piece of the puzzle that could absolutely be filled in the draft this year if finally we get a little lottery luck. Now, if the lottery rolls, if we're sitting on a couch and the ping pong balls reveal the Jazz are drafting 7th again, it sucks.
Yep.
And you're going to go, well, wait a second. Why do we do all that? Because it is literally a lottery like last year. Poor Ashley Smith is sitting there, and we're all like, hey, we're going to get a top 3 pick. And this poor woman, empowered, on board, is sitting there, and the look on her face when the Jazz, it's revealed that the Mavericks get 1 and the Jazz fall to, 8 or whatever? I mean, I'm sure Ryan felt bad that he had her go because I felt so bad for her. And hopefully this year that, the luck finally comes. And if they can add Darren Peterson or A.J. Debonsa to this group, Sean, it is full speed ahead next year, okay? I don't understand why the Jazz are the ire of national NBA media today, but I'm watching NBA Today before I'm coming in, and they're just cracking on the Jazz.
I like they're the first team to do it ever.
David Robinson, 82 games played, Iron Man, and yes, had an injury. But as the story goes, he's like, I'm ready. They're like, sorry, no, you're not.
Look, Jaren Jackson Jr., Trey J, as we're trying to rename him.
Oh.
And,
I don't hate it.
And Lauri Markkanen and Keontae George, they all have asthma, and they're out of shape, and they can't play more than 3 quarters.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
We've known this for years.
It's insider information, but I'm glad you're finally sharing it with the community.
They cannot sustain a full 4 quarters.
I used to love, you remember Jamal Tinsley?
Yeah.
Brooklyn's own Jamal Tinsley. Whenever the Jazz would go back east for that New York, Brooklyn, Knick, Celtic trip, they would fly back to Salt Lake. They're like, yeah, Jamal's out for the next 5 games. Gastric distress, better known as Bud Mud. Speaking of which, did you see the video of, it was Kenneth Walker and Sam Darnold in Disneyland.
In the teacups?
In the teacups, hung over. Like, they look like they're going to yak. The last ride to ride, if you've had a couple of too many pops the night before, is the teacups. I'm not sure why you're going in that direction.
They're probably for a photo shoot.
Yeah.
I imagine.
Darnold had his sunglasses on. Kenneth Walker Jr. looks like he's ready to puke.
You are our biathlon insider on the Sean O'Connell Show.
Obviously.
Olympic biathlon insider. And oddly enough, there's a very intriguing biathlon story. So did you want to share?
Well, yes. I mean, of course, last night I was busy spinning Kid Rock records, and after I was done with the Melania documentary, I turned on my biathlon highlights so I could be prepared for today.
It's a nice little evening for you.
That was a great Monday night. Mixed 4x6K relay biathlon. The final was taken by Eric Perrault from France. Tomas Giacomo from Italy.
Yes, obviously.
Took, I know I'm telling you what you already know, took silver. And then Justin Strelot was able to grab the bronze from Germany. So even though there are a lot of guns in America, we're not very good at the biathlon, unfortunately.
My favorite story, and I know Spence wants to respect the family nature of this show.
Indeed.
The Norwegian biathlete Sturla Holmlerud.
Ooh, look at you.
Takes home a bronze medal today in the 20-kilometer individual race. Goes to the podium, goes to the press conference afterwards, and speaking with the Norwegian media, effectively says, 6 months ago, I met the love of my life and the most beautiful and kindest person in the world. Isn't that lovely?
That is lovely.
Right after winning an Olympic medal?
Yeah.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
And 3 months ago, I made my biggest mistake and cheated on her.
Oh.
After winning an Olympic medal.
Wait, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, are you trying to win her back? Because otherwise, you just outed yourself as a cheater, and your dating options suddenly dwindle.
Yeah, he's trying to win her back. He said, "This has been the worst week of my life. I had a gold medal in my life. I only have eyes for her. I don't know what I want to achieve by saying this, but sports have been have been in a different light in recent days. I wish I could share it with her.
Oof.
I'm willing to drop a nuclear bomb on the Norwegian version of NBC and commit social suicide and be hated by everyone because I'm already hated by her. I hope that maybe it can make her realize how much I love her."
What a moron. That's the wrong approach, dude.
Whoa.
That's the wrong approach because you're probably not getting her back. And now anytime anybody sees you on Bumble, they're swiping left, dude. You blew it. What an idiot. That is
This is 20 minutes after getting an Olympic medal.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of Mendoza not talking to women as a Heisman Trophy winner. What a moron. You just won the gold. Give it some time, man. You'll get over her. It takes a few weeks, but you move on from it.
Also, 6 months. He's deeply in love. In that 6 months ago, I met the love of my life. He was in a relationship with her for 3 months. Because 3 months later is when he cheated on her and they broke up.
Do you know how old he is? He must be like 19.
He's 28.
Okay, that's too old to have this perspective that love is a real thing, dude. Wake up. Get over her.
That is not the official stance. Well,
it's
we're
it's after 2 o'clock. The official stance of the drive is love is not a real thing.
Okay,
Get over her, dude. Take a couple weeks. Work on yourself, right? Let the energy pass through you. You have a gold medal. Go back home and just crush it is my advice.
A bronze medal.
Well, okay. Well, that makes it a little bit more understandable.
This is not behavior from a gold medalist. A bronze medalist, okay, we get it.
Yeah, that's a little more understandable.
Oh, stay tuned for the drive. And then tomorrow you can tune in to the Sean O'Connell Show, and we'll make you believe in love again. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.